Look what I have.
She brings me out these, I don't know if I can see
Chicken
these.
cutlets.
Did your mom make you those?
They're rolls, like Christmas rolls. And I'm like, oh, I'm being spoiled here.
Okay. All right. Joey, you ready?
I am.
Can I run this shindig?
Please.
Okay. All right. I would like to call to order the Village Council work session on January 25th, 2024 at 9:01 a.m. I see we do have quorum in the building with John Barasich, Andy Wortman, Wayne Deathridge, and myself, Kim Vandenberg. We have Mayor Polino on Zoom. Bob Markleese will be absent, and Jamie Line will be joining us later. I will announce whenever he joins. So I need a motion to allow Mayor Polino to participate remotely.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions, changes, subtractions that I know of?
None.
Nope. All right, seeing none, I need a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Yeah, didn't do that last time. Seeing none, motion passes. Next up is adoption of the previous minutes. Do we have any changes to the minutes from January 11th?
No changes here.
Seeing none, hearing none. Need a motion to approve the minutes from January 11th as presented.
So moved.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, unfinished business. Number one, discussion and consideration of NCDOT road abandonment request for Waxhaw Marvin Road, Newtown Road, Marvin School Road, and Bonds Grove Road contingent upon general obligation bond approval. Christina, this is you.
Thank you. Hopefully by now everyone's had an opportunity to read the agenda packet. In short, I'll just kind of summarize some of the things that are listed in the current section of the memo. If you recall, over the last year, we've been working with DOT to get what we consider Phase 1 roads with a letter of intent to relinquish those roads based on their basically guidelines and instructions for road abandonments. In short, Phase 1 is what we consider kind of the easy grabs, your residential roads, some of the easier streets that don't have issues, meaning in and out of Marvin, several points. One side's on Marvin, one side's not on Marvin in terms of being in incorporated corporate limits, or have certain intersections that have portions in the jurisdiction and not in the jurisdiction. Those roads, again, are your residential roads, your Marvin Creek, Innisbrook, the roads that are currently DOT roads that don't have connectivity issues. We've got that letter. It's in your agenda packet. It basically says that they're willing to give us those roads with no issues, contingent upon the bond passing. The second phase is what we're considering Phase 2, which are your complicated roads. We've had a couple of discussions about this. Those are your roads that have those connectivity issues. Waxhaw Marvin, for example, you go down Waxhaw Marvin on a GIS map, and you'll see multiple periods of in Marvin, not in Marvin. You've got a couple of intersections, such as the two roundabouts that we have here in front of us at Village Hall that have portions in Union County, portions in Marvin. So we went back and forth with DOT. We finally got those answers resolved on what we've been referring to as the 1,500 linear foot kind of setback. They've basically said they're willing to ignore that setback and now go to where the concrete kind of concrete paths end on the roundabout. I've got some images in your agenda packet, but basically what we're looking for is some direction from you all as to where you want starting and stopping points on those problem roads so that we can move forward with getting those forms signed by the adjacent property owners, and we know where we're focusing our energies and making sure we're telling the public the right information as well. That being said, before we get into the maps, does anybody have any questions about why we're here, how we've gotten here?
No, but
Okay.
I do want to say something.
Okay.
Where I think this is great planning, I don't think that we need to pick our start-stops points until this thing passes or doesn't pass.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's going to be, I think we're going to I think we'll end up mulling over it and going back and forth and trying to figure it out. And if these are not going to be our first kind of top priority ones, if the bond does pass, then I don't think we should spend the time doing it until we know if the bond passes or not. Because we're not, I mean, Marvin School Road and Newtown Road are the only two kind of in the first go-around that I think are going to be that we're going to have to get approval from, and it's going to be from two places, basically. So for me, I don't think it makes sense to sit here and try to figure out, because if it doesn't pass, then we're not going to do it.
And that's totally fine if that's the direction of council and where y'all want to go. It makes sense to save the time and energy. I just wanted to bring this up to you now as we're having the discussions with the HOAs, and so that, you know, they know if we're asking questions where we're going to stop ownership and where we're going to be controlling those DOT roads.
I mean, I've done this 3 times. I'm going to do another one tonight. Nobody's really asked where it's going to start and stop.
Okay.
And we did explain the SR3 form last night, and nobody really seemed to have an issue with it. I think we've explained that, you know, we're going to have to get approval. I think the greenways was a question of, if we don't get the roads, are we still going to be able to do greenways? You know, a lot of that just is dependent on, you know, what these HOAs or these individual property owners will allow us to do. And it may be that, I don't know. I don't think that we need to go down this rabbit hole until we know if the bond has passed or not. Because again, it's not going to be the first thing that we're doing. It's going to be a couple of years down the road, which will give us ample time to plan for it. Now, I do think if it passes in that March work session, we should talk about it. But
I agree, and to add to that, in 2 years' time, things can change. I mean,
yeah,
there may
individual
be.
property owners may
Yeah.
have changed, and that's a really good point, Andy, and that's a question you should ask DOT. If we get an SR3 form signed today, and we don't start construction or taking over the roads until 3 years from now, and that homeowner changes, do we have to get a new SR3 form, or does it just carry over?
That's a really
That's
good
a really good
question.
point.
But there's certainly the potential that we may annex some of these areas in the next 2 to 3 years. There's, you know, people move, all kinds of things change. So, yeah, I agree with Kim. We should probably wait, because we don't really have all the information that we will come the time that we actually do this work, so.
So if that's the consensus of the board, y'all have a work session on March 28th. We can table this entire item until then, and if it's not needed at that point, we can pull it off. But if the bond passes, we can keep it on. Is everyone in agreement to that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Wayne, you good with that?
Yes.
Joe, you good with that?
Yes, that's good points all around, and I think I the only thing I worry about is if the bond does pass, is we want to be ready to jump on things right away. But like you said, there's so many other things that may be a priority. So
Well, I mean,
good points.
yeah, I mean, and listen, I'm the one that said shut down Marvin, pave everything all at once. Like, I mean, I absolutely want to do everything as soon as humanly possible, but it's not going to be one of our top. It's just not going to be when we do our first Series A poll or whatever. That's just not going to be the ones that we're doing, because it's just going to take longer to do. And I think if we wait 2 months to make those decisions, it's not going to kill us. Okay.
To go.
All right. Anything else with that, Christina? Do you need anything? I mean, did you need anything else from that?
No, we'll just direct Austin to table it until March 28th.
Yeah. Okay. All right, perfect. All right, next up is discussion of general obligation bond yard. I tried to put those two together. Signs, installation sites. Austin.
All right, so as you have seen, we have received our banners and our yard signs for the bond campaign, so we need to get these out to the public. Basically, what I'm looking for is guidance on where do you want these yard signs to go. We have 100 of them.
Can we see them?
Yes.
Can we hold them up and show them to the camera so all those that are listening can see? And we should definitely get them up, because we definitely have some opposition bond signs already going up, so we definitely want to get ours out, just to let people know that there is a vote happening.
So we have 4.
Austin, can you turn it towards the camera the other way? No, the backside. There you go.
All right, we'll do one at a time. First is have a say in Marvin's future.
Other way. Like,
Put-
point it towards that camera.
Yeah, exactly. There you
Everybody,
go.
I'll make sure you
No,
guys can
this
see.
way. We can see it. It's fine.
That's perfect.
So these are the general ones. We have 35 of these.
Okay, 35 general ones. Got it. Andy's gonna put them up in his yard. I'm gonna put them up in my yard.
Future location of Village Hall Park.
I think we should put that at the Village Hall Park location.
We only have 10 of these, so this is enough just to kind of wrap the property.
Okay.
Austin,
I'm so smart.
we can put these like we do election signs.
Yep.
Yes.
If I could have, I'll put some of them coming in Tom Short.
Yep, the roundabout's there too.
New and expanded greenways, and this one does have a QR code on it, so people will go directly to the map to see the greenways.
Ooh, fancy. Okay.
Hold it nice for me. Don't forget about me in the back of the room. There you go.
We have 25 of these.
It's actually good that
And
we got somebody.
lastly, improve roads and pedestrian safety. We have 35 of these. So yeah, so we have the 4 versions of the signs. We know where the Village Hall ones go. So really, if you guys want to take any of these with you, if you want to put them out, if you just want to have Public Works put them out with a work order, we can do that as well.
I say let's have Public Works put them out with a work order, but I would like some, because I will put one in my yard. I mean, I would do them like we would do an election sign, so stick them in the roundabouts.
Is it possible, guys, that we put them at the entrances of each neighborhood?
I mean, if they're in the DOT right away, then yes. But I also want, I also want to keep a kind of running list of where we have put them, so we know that if they are gone or not. And I'm not sure I would put all of them out at once, save a few, so if people do take them down, or the lawnmower eats them up, or whatever it may be. Austin, go ahead and tell us where the big banners are gonna go, because that will help us with the yard sign placements.
Yes, so I did finish writing the work order for the banners yesterday. We have 9 banners, one of which is for the Village Hall Park, so we know that's going to go here.
with the Village Hall Park.
All the banners are double-sided, so you really only need one at each location. We have 3 for improved roads and pedestrian safety. Those are going at, let me pull up my list here. There it is. These are going at improved roads and pedestrian safety. We have one by Andy's house, one at the corner of Marvin School Road and Joe Carr Road on the side with the loop trail. We have another one on the corner of Bonds Grove Church and Waxhaw Marvin Road, the future roundabout site. We have 2 banners that are general and say, have a say in Marvin's future. One of those will be at Village Hall facing Marvin School Road. The other one will be at the entrance to Marvin Eford Park. We've got 3 Greenway banners, one to go at the corner of Joe Carr and Marvin Road. We're working to see if we can get that on the property that's going to be the Sage at Marvin, the subdivision that's about to break ground. Another one at the corner of Crane Road and Waxhaw Marvin Road, and then one at the Pocket Park.
That pretty
So we
much
have a
covers
pretty good
it, I think.
distribution across the village for the banners.
So it's, it's going to be just kind of filling with the little yard signs, and that's,
I think I think it'll be at the entrance, like Joe said, let's put them at the entrances of neighborhoods, because we don't really have any at the entrances of neighborhoods, so I would say do them at the end, put them on Bob's property, line Bob's property with them, on Marvin Road, so have one of each except for the Village Hall Park, or,
same thing with
Kim.
my
Yep.
house.
No offense, but does it really make sense to put a sign at in front of your yard or any of our yards if we don't have high traffic?
No, probably not, but, I mean, I would kind of like, well, no, it doesn't.
No, but.
But I kind of want people to know that I support it.
Well, if it's in front of your subdivision, it's really in front of your house.
I mean, that's right, that's true. Okay, so we won't put them in front of our houses,
Except mine, because I'm on.
except Andy's, because he's on a main road, but I would put them in front of Bob's house. Don't worry about putting them in front of Innisbrook, because Bob's house covers that. I'd put one at Woodcliff, I'd put one at Firethorn. When I say one, I mean like
One of each. of
a
the-
couple.
some
And,
of them.
and pedestrian safety is gonna be a big deal on Joe Carr Road. I can, or Hunter can reach out, or I can reach out to, Jones Homes and ask if we can put them,
On that, the new subdivision, yeah, I got you.
there. Yeah, and then we can put them, I would put them in front of Marvin Creek, Canterfield Creek, Bridle Path, all the way down there, especially the pedestrian crossing and the expanded greenways,
What, you say expanding greenways where?
same places.
Same places, okay?
Looping around, I will reach out to Robbie and see if we can put them at his rental property. We can reach out to Will Owens and see if we can put them at his rental property. I say at all 3 roundabouts. Wayne can put them out, or just have Public Works do it. Just put them at the roundabout at Tullamore.
Even in front of Will's house down there, I mean, in front of his house. too.
Oh, yeah, his house yeah,
That would definitely be a good spot.
yeah.
I think especially as you get by the schools, you know, where you
Yep.
got a lot of car waiting lines and
Yep.
there's higher visibility.
Yeah, so we've got a big banner at the stoplight for there. So I think maybe some yard signs. I don't want to, I mean, the chimneys doesn't make sense, but
Weddington Chase out near there, near the Pocket Park. I think.
Weddington, well, the Pocket Park's going to have a big one, but yes, over there, coming down courtyards, put them in front of courtyards,
Courtyards, Weddington, Chase, and Cottages. at
Providence
Marvin-
Glen.
Cottages at Marvin Gardens too?
Yeah,
Or is that
no,
whole-
I wouldn't do them around the corner. I would just do on the Providence roadside. And then then turning the corner down Bonds Grove, I would put them coming out the backside of Valhalla,
No, when you say backside of Valhalla, is
the one that comes out on Bonds Grove. I don't know what that road is.
That doesn't come out on Bonds Grove.
It doesn't?
Waxhaw Marvin, Valhalla comes out on, or Gray Byram.
Oh, okay.
But I
don't-
think it'd probably be better to do it by on the Waxhaw Marvin one.
Yeah.
that's Viking Drive, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but don't worry about doing it there.
Well, you
I
got-
thought it came out on Bonds Grove. You're right, it doesn't. But put them in front of Barcroft, put them in front of Beechwood, put them in front of Providence Ridge, Belgrove,
Just kind of do all the neighborhoods.
all the neighborhoods, then come around that corner. We're gonna have a big banner there at the Waxhaw Marvin, Bonds Grove intersection. And then down, I would put them in front of Providence Estates. I'd put them in front of Valhalla. Put them in front of the Marvin signs. You can put them in front of the Welcome to Marvin sign on Marvin School Road down by Providence Downs. Put them at the Welcome to Marvin sign on Newtown coming out of South Carolina.
Now,
You don't have to put one of each. I'm just saying, just kind of spread it out and where it makes most sense. Like, if we're not gonna have a greenway at the South Carolina line, then let's put an improved roads and safety there. If we have one at the Mecklenburg County line, let's do improved greenways, because we're gonna have greenway connectivity down there.
okay.
May I make a quick suggestion?
Sure, Joe.
Sure.
As soon as we get these signs up, if we could have something from a communication standard to be put out right away, because you're going to see a ton of next door stuff pop up. And if we could get out ahead of it and say, you know, hey, get the facts, don't rely on next door, contact staff, whatever it is we decide to do, that a nice way of saying that, you know, again, it's a rabbit hole and there's going to be a lot of wrong and misinformation given there. And we're happy to give the information out, but we encourage you to go to the source to find out the information rather than someone who maybe attends a meeting every once in a while and is trying to, quite frankly, whatever their agenda is, if they want to sabotage it, promote it, whatever it is. I just want to encourage people to reach out to staff or us about the actual bond itself.
Do you want the communications to specifically say, do not listen to next door? Or just
No.
No, we
I
can't.
think it's important to just redirect people to the
Yeah.
actual, so we talked about putting the presentation online. We talked about providing the additional dates for the town halls and things like that, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would just, and then I would just put the link for the bond stuff. I would just constantly be putting that out. Like, it's got to be because people are going to go on there, and they already are, and that's fine. What's not fine is that they're giving false information, and they're not giving the full picture of what the situation is. And that is unfortunate, but it is happening. And, you know, the only thing that we can do is just redirect them to the website where all of the accurate bond information is, or to come to a meeting. We're working on getting the video out. Jamie worked on it. It needs to be tweaked a little bit, so we're still working on it.
We can absolutely do that. We've already got a bunch of bond posts scheduled in the coming days, so if we can just make a notation to those that signs are out to make sure you visit the website for more information.
There you go.
I think those are good locations. You need any more direction without?
No, I'll have to write a very detailed work order. Sorry, Davey.
It won't be that hard.
we're good.
I have faith in you guys.
We're good.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
All right. Next up is considering entering agreement with Spectrum Enterprise for Marvin Eford Park internet service at a cost not to exceed $3,000 and allow manager to execute the agreement. Davey.
Good morning, everyone. In a previous meeting, I think it was during November, I brought some quotes to you to install internet services to Marvin Eford Park. The park itself does not have telecommunications infrastructure there currently. So at the time we were getting those quotes, the quotes included either trenching in or boring in underground services to provide the internet for the park. It was asked at that time for staff to go back and get some additional quotes, try to narrow down exactly what we need in the park. So I reached back out to the companies that were involved previously, and I basically said, look, we're looking to add 3 to 5 security cameras to the park. Give me the most inexpensive option that would carry the load for these cameras. And so they went back, and what was brought back to me is one option is for $199 per month. This includes a fixed wireless connection with a Cradlepoint router, which basically is a cell service. So they went in and tested and made sure there was good cell coverage in the park and the areas that we were looking to install the security cameras. They believe that will work very well. So if we decided to go with that option, that would not require any trenching or boring throughout the park. So that was one of the options. The other company went back to their engineers and looked at it and basically said, everything we quoted you before, those services aren't in the area. We're not going to be able to provide those now. All we can provide is this option, which is what I had listed. Looks like it's a $665 per month charge, but that will include installation of the telecommunications infrastructure. So that would consist of some trenching and boring if we went in that direction. One thing that's not included in this quote is the actual security cameras themselves. This is just the service to run the cameras. We have the options of going in and selecting the type of cameras that we want. So I've been looking around, trying to get some quotes on some cameras. Looks like we could get some. The range, I believe, we could get 3 to 5 would be anywhere from $200 to $1,000, depending on what we want the cameras to provide. So I don't think it's a huge increase on top of that, but if you decide to move forward with this plan, then I can go back and get more detailed information on security cameras and bring that to you at another meeting.
One question I would have is, sometimes you want to use those, you don't know something occurred until after it's happened. So does this account for, either within the cameras, some sort of data storage so that you have a buffer of you can go back 3 days or 5 days, or is that kind of built into what we're planning on here as well?
Yes, sir, absolutely, and
Okay.
that's we can determine what type of camera systems we want, and some will forward it to a cloud-based program. I've found that you can get recordings from 72 hours up to even a longer period of time than that. So we have with some flexibility there in the style of cameras and the system that comes with that we would purchase, we would own, and just a one-time cost, and then we'd have them installed, and we would just be paying the monthly service for the internet.
Yeah, I recall when we had some cameras in there a while back, and some internet service that unfortunately we had during an event kind of a smash through a window and grab, but they weren't able to kind of go back, so I think that's an important part, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can I ask a dumb question?
No questions are dumb, so ask away.
So like when people are out hunting and they have a trail cam, they don't have Wi-Fi, like they don't have a system. Why can't we just put trail cams out?
What are you saying is these are cellular connected cameras, that
Yeah,
is
but
the
at
cheaper
$3,000?
option. No, the cheaper option. It's what, $199 a month?
$199 a month for
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, there's
And then
no
plus
way
the
that
purchase
these trail
of the,
cams are this much.
well, so I have a trail cam on my property in Lancaster.
That's why I'm
And
asking.
and
'cause I
it's
feel like this
connected
is
to my
really
phone,
dumb.
okay? But the problem with that is that it's not as reliable as you might think. It works off of motion, takes a snapshot, not a video, and so for hunting, that's really what you want. You want a snapshot of what shows up at your place where you're gonna hunt.
Yeah, that's what I've seen, of just like
Right.
pictures.
So what Davey has researched, and I've done a lot of research on this myself because I have a piece of property where I don't have internet and different options that have been considering. What he's looking at is a camera system that will go back to a cloud, which will capture the video recording. They run on motion sensing to activate the camera. They don't run all the time to conserve energy. A lot of them run on batteries. Some of them are capable of using solar to charge their batteries, depending on the camera that you want to use. But they all back up all of their files and that all depends on the plan. Some of them can go, 72 hours. Some of them can do 30 days of backup. Just depends on your plan and how you set it up, how much you want to pay, all that. If the cell service is reliable, then the cameras are very reliable. In my opinion, from all of the research that I've done, the cellular cameras are probably the answer for what we're looking for. We want to have surveillance, so in case there's an incident, we can go back and look and see what's going on. That's really the biggest portion of this is security, right? So I think it's a pretty cost-effective way of providing security at the park. When we have events and there are a lot of people around, there's going to be a lot of motion, there's going to be a lot of recording, and you'll be able to see all kinds of stuff. And the other thing, besides security, when we have events, we can go back and debrief from these cameras and get some information on people's walking patterns, people's, the different things of the event that we don't necessarily see on the ground working it. We can see it from a different perspective, and it can help us plan better for future events with some of the information that we can get from that. So, there's a little bit of that as well. So,
What would be your determination on the ability to have them hardwired for electric versus battery operated? Because I typically find that just becomes an additional higher maintenance type thing to keep batteries, and so forth. But is the feeling where you would have them in things where we have electric available for the most part?
The thought process is to install 2 cameras at the barn, which we would have one located inside, one on the outside underneath the cover, kind of facing the playground restroom area. Those could be hardwired. I think that would be the smart choice for that. Then we would look at looking at just one at this time, installed somewhere on the maintenance shop, which is right down the hill from the barn. And depending on the location, we can get the right view of the front doors and the side entrance. That one could be hardwired. That one may need to be a different style, maybe, possibly a solar powered.
Yeah, solar power is going to use a battery for the nighttime use, but it recharges daily through solar. And those batteries typically will last a good long time. They don't have to be replaced all the time. And it's pretty easy to do so, and what it would take for maintenance on those is quite, minimal. I mean, we're only talking about a couple of cameras, so it's not like it's going to be a huge deal. The one thing about this is that we can always add, if we feel like that we need to have eyes on a different part of the park, if we have some incidents there that we want to monitor, these types of cameras we can just go add one to the system if we need to. So it's pretty customizable moving forward as well, so.
What's the average retaining the film of the pictures on each one of them? 3 days, 5 days, a week, 2 weeks?
I've heard 72 hours is quite a bit, but you can, again, we have the flexibility to determine what style camera and its
It's
capabilities.
all a matter of data storage, which,
Okay.
Yeah, so your plan, whatever your plan is based, cost-wise, based on how much data storage that you're allowed. So if you want a month's worth to go back, then you pay for a plan that will store it for a month.
No, but 3 days is a little short of,
That's just the standard that the camera does. Like my camera on my house, it does, unless I pick a data plan, which I don't have a data plan, I don't need one, it stores it for 72 hours, okay, automatically for free. If I want to add to a data plan to it, it'll store it as long as I want to. So it is what you pick. So I agree, we should probably look at a plan that will store it longer, or even one that could possibly download it to a permanent drive that we can keep. Whatever makes the most monetary sense in that respect.
So the cellular option sounds like the one to go, wireless internet.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Okay. So I'm fine with doing that. We'll make a motion, but I do have a question before we do that, and if anybody else does. But have we thought about doing the flock at the park?
the flock is only really for the entrance, and
No, I know, but like if something happens and we at least have,
Well, and it is good information to know if there is, with the flock system, it does record and store if there is a license plate that is in the system that knows if they're
that's what I'm saying.
coming and
Like,
going
if-
from our park.
If something happens and it's, two people and whatever, they vandalized the barn, well, okay, that's two people because we don't necessarily, they've parked at the upper parking lot. Like, I'm just thinking maybe we should put a flock on the park.
If they got the gates closed, which they do at nighttime, they just park on the road and walk in.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know, I was just thinking maybe the flock might not be a bad idea, just as a backup.
The flock camera.
Can I interject something here? And I just checked and went online to check. So I have property located up here, and I just want to see visual. I can actually speak on this. It is hardwired, but we're talking about this is something literally that I bought at Costco, and it's feet, FEIT, and it has a motion sensor in it that when the car passes, the lights go on. I just went back. I can go back any month I want, and it continues to store this stuff online where I can see pictures. This is months back, and there's no service to it. I don't pay a service for that, but I can go on this thing, play back, give me any date. I'm looking right now. I could go back. I'm going to try November. Let me try October 26th. Boom. I can click on any one of these timestamps, and I can see motion, and I can see who was in there. Now, ability and how can you zoom in on these things and find out, but you can at least get video of what truck was there. I'm looking at a truck. It was roofers back then that were in there. So, I had some questions like how many cameras would they be, additional costs, and then more importantly, you were talking about the deer cams, Kim. Yeah, it's great to have them, but they get stolen a lot of times because those things you can just walk up behind them and unstrap them from a tree. Where are we going to locate
That's
these?
the other
Are they
thing.
going to be difficult
Well,
to
he
I
access?
was just asking.
I mean, that
No,
is
no,
a
no.
good
There
point.
was,
didn't
it was
know.
a very good idea, and I
Yeah.
like that idea too because that's in some cases that works. But it's almost once they figure it out, those deer cams can be used anywhere, and if someone grabs them, then we're now buying another deer cam. But so accessibility by individuals would be a concern. Where are they located? What's going out? What's coming in is important. I think that covers the flock thing. But I'm a little concerned about the prices, and Davey would look at specifics on this. Is okay. The $600 a month, is that for all intensive so people can have Wi-Fi there? Because I would argue there's probably more residents that are non-Marvin residents that are residents that go to the. Every time I go there, I introduce myself and I ask them
That's
where they're
confused.
from, and it's a very small percentage of the time I hear they're Marvin residents.
I mean, he does, okay, so he does have a point. I mean, we could always look into like Ring. I mean, Ring has all kinds of options that you pay like $20 a month and you get all kinds of storage and
Okay, so.
instead of
we're
200.
Talking, well, yeah, it's $200 a month for the service to run 5 or 6 cameras. The 665 is wired internet with the boring and trenching and all that, and I think we've pretty much said we don't want to do that because of cost.
Right.
So we're not worried about providing internet at the park at this point, I think, more than we are just looking for more for security. So, I mean, this system is going to be different than the system that you have in Pennsylvania, Joe, and the fact that these are cellular connected cameras, and they have to be remote like that because otherwise you'd have to.
No, that's true. 'cause
You'd
my-
have to have
my Ring
Wi-Fi
has to be on
or-
Wi-Fi, yeah.
or wired connections to these things, which would be very costly and almost impossible to do. So, yeah, so we're talking about a
No,
couple.
they are hardwired and they're wired to and they're close on the property. But I'm
Right.
just saying, if it's a hardwire and we have access to internet, a simple system like Feet, you can go back months and months, just what we can connect to.
But we're not
Right,
gonna
and
have
that's the
internet
thing.
hardwired.
That's the expensive package. If we were to use that system, we would have to have wired internet, which would cost us $3,000 to install it and $665 a month to operate it. So while that's a great system for what you have, I think that it's not going to work for our purposes because it would cost us that much to operate that particular system. You understand the difference?
No, I do.
Okay.
I scratch my head and wonder why the $600 a month. I mean, again, I think it's just because we're government and they think they can get away with it.
For the hardware, yeah, that's what he's talking about. It's 600. It's a lot of money for internet service. I agree.
I always look at things as if what would I pay as an end user, as an individual, and then I get it that this is a bigger concept, but then I'm just thinking sometimes we get taken advantage of because we're government and they just think we have just an endless pot that we can pick from. But at $600 a month for service on something like this, and I don't know what you're actually getting. How far back you can go back? Everything's an add-on, but that's just me and I'm digressing. Sorry.
No, the option that we're looking at is $199 a month.
Okay.
That's with the cellular cameras that we can get storage, and also with that is that there's remote monitor capabilities. So, bless you. So Davey and Christina can look on a screen here at Village Hall and see live what's going on down there. So I think from what I've seen and what I've researched, I think that's probably going to be the best option for what we're trying to do, just for security at the park.
All right, let's do it then.
Yeah.
So, I don't know which option. We're gonna pick the wireless internet option. Is that, they're both Spectrum?
That would be the Spectrum Enterprises.
All right, so I need a motion to enter an agreement with Spectrum Enterprise for Marvin Eford Park Internet Service. It's not really internet service, is it? Is it internet service?
Yeah, that's the internet service. It's just a cellular form of it.
To do the fixed wireless connection that will be installed with a Cradlepoint router, that's the option, that's $199 a month with a $250 install charge. And for the manager to execute the agreement. Is that good?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, I need a motion.
So
That's what
moved.
I said. I need a motion. Sorry. So moved. Further discussion. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Can I add one more thing to this? No, just why
Yes, go
we
ahead.
need it is, we've never had this, but if we have some kind of incident up there at night or something, or doing something, we would need something that says, you know, this is, we put this up so that we can watch it, and it's not a lonely place. Because there's people that go up there.
Like
in
a
the
closed
days
circuit.
By themselves.
I think you're talking about a closed circuit sign.
No, yeah.
Sign up
Put a
there that
sign
says
up and
there's a
say,
vid-
you know, it's,
You're being
There.
videotaped?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's actually.
It's a
besi-
deterrent, too.
It's a, yeah, so I was gonna say, it is definitely a deterrent for people to do something that they think that they can get away with, that there actually are cameras up there. That is a good
Yeah.
deterrent.
So we can get some signs made?
Yep.
Austin, we put that on your to-do list? Not your to-do list, but a to-do list?
Um,
On the action
Da-
item list?
Well,
Davey can take care of it. They've got pre-ordered, they've got pre-made signs like that. We got it.
Okay.
Yeah, there probably some come with the package, I would imagine. A lot of them do, so.
Okay, all right, very good, thank you, thanks, Davey. All right, next up, new business. Number 1, discussion of construction quotes of pickleball courts. Oh, Joe's gonna have a field day with this. Tyler, you're up.
All right, so in that little packet I handed out to y'all, all right, there's 2 quotes in on the backside of the packet that I gave you guys. I know originally we had a local resident come in who was an architect, and we also have some emails from him. He kind of gave us a rough estimate of around $125,000 for 2 pickleball courts. That was just his roundabout idea, and that was just for the courts, not including like the civil engineering and everything. Davey actually reached out to a contact of his, and we got sent over the first quote you see right there. It's not really a quote; it just shows the prices of. That is a joint tennis court and 2 tennis courts with 4 pickleball courts on it for $155,950. And the second one is actually it's for 8 pickleball courts on the same. I believe both of them for 120 by 120 pours of asphalt. And that's 8 courts, and that's purely pickleball divided up. Line just for pickleball is 158, 655. And that's just an estimate from one company. But yeah,
Quite frankly, that doesn't surprise me with the prices for what they're doing and the amount actually.
Feel free, Joe, go ahead. Waiting on you.
Oh my, oh my, oh my. So, Tyler, I'm going to send you 2 individuals' names that I'm dealing with up here in Pennsylvania. And what he said to me is, approximately, I was just talking 1 court, 2 courts, still not an issue. He basically said, now, what had to happen, and they did this all up here, they graded. And, Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, there's really not much grading to be done because that is fairly flat, but you do have to make it flat. You also have to have drainage accounted for it. They did that as well. The court, the standard sport court is, and pickleball, official pickleball court is, you can get it within 50 by 30 feet. So they poured the slab of 50 by 30 feet at 4 inches. They put the sport court down, they put a basketball hoop up on it, and they put a light fixture on it to play at night. Grand total, $22,000. What he said to me, he said, if you have contacts in the concrete business, and we can get someone to come over there and get the grade that we need, do the proper drainage wherever it would naturally drain to, and pour a 4-inch slab at 50 by 30. He can put that in there. So you just double it, and we're still way below that. And what they would do is they manufacture somewhere, I want to say in the Midwest. They sometimes they can paint it on site in their facility, or they paint it on site once it's installed. And what happens is if you break the plastic, because these things are on the sports courts are on a plastic type heavy duty thing. The life of them are 15 years. But the cool thing is, say if you were to break it, or a lawnmower were to go over it and crack it or whatever, you can just order the piece. I think it's a 9x9 square that they come in and they just slap it right back down to replace that. So again, I'm anxious to go look at it, because the court was installed in the wintertime up here in Pennsylvania. They poured the concrete in December and finished it up at the end of December. So I have not seen it yet, but I will be happy to pass on that name. He was happy to entertain giving us a bid on that sport court and assembling it. They actually have an individual up in Pennsylvania that was going down to Texas to install, like, I want to say 15 different courts that they have contracted for, and he's going to be gone a couple weeks. And I don't know. I look at this and I see $200,000, $400, whatever it is, and I'm just scratching my head going, do we really need to spend that much? I'm happy to pass on that information for you. I think if we could find, Andy, you may know some concrete guys or whatever, we could do this a lot cheaper.
Okay, so,
We do, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
and real quick, I wanted to just mention something real fast before y'all go any further on this. This is just a quote that we got from a resident that I guess has done this before. But I do want to make it an effort to really say, there's a lot of these projects that come up that we just kind of do what we're doing now, and that's just find a vendor, make it happen. I really feel like we need to get an engineer to come in and actually draw this out on a site plan. We made a mistake once before where we kind of went in and put a trail. We didn't get an engineer to do it, and we were not ADA compliant. So I do really want to make sure we go through the right process and designate some money to first and foremost get an actual licensed engineer to site plan it out and engineer it, and then we go out for an RFP.
So-
I think that that's fine. I think that we wait until we find out if the bond passes or not, because this will not get done if the bond does not pass, because we won't have money to do it. So I think that we can put together, if you want to, an RFP, RFQ, whatever the letters are, for the engineered design of it, and just wait and see if the bond passes, and if it does, then you can pull that trigger and go ahead and move on. But we don't need to expend the money until we know if the bond passes.
Well, why don't we just table it? It does take a lot of time and effort for us to do these RFQs. It's not an easy process. I've been working on one for the Village Hall project for the last 2 weeks. So if we're going to wait until the bond passes, I just say we table this until the March work session, and then we can come back and
That's
make.
fine.
Okay.
Well, one point I want to throw in here, Joe, is you said it was one pickleball court at $22,000 for the base and the concrete. That doesn't include the nets, the topping, and all that. We're talking about 4 courts. So now you're at $88,000 if you're just doing the concrete, and then the nets, the painting, the surface, and all that. So we are
No,
probably
Andy, that included everything.
that included everything for 22.
Yes, including the sport court and the painting, the lines, the nets, the basketball hoop, the lighting, everything.
Lighting as well.
Yes.
Then that guy needs to come down here and do it then, because I don't see it getting done for that price here at our price.
Yeah, and we also have to
Again-
make sure it meets our
again,
lighting ordinance as well.
Right.
Yeah. Again, what I didn't have right now is a fence that would be. I don't have that right now. There's a natural locking area, so I can't imagine fences being that much. But we would want to probably enclose this, fence this in, and and have some sort of locking code that people would access and get in. And if we are going to schedule this going down the road of, okay, I have the court from this time to this time, that person arrives and they are issued a code. This is how I envision it. Issued a code and they go in, but it would be fenced in, so there's a cost there. I get it. What I'm saying is that's with if we can find the concrete guy down here, the $22,000 was with the concrete, which he did give me a deal, and I know he did because I compared things because I was expecting double that price, quite frankly, as a resident. One official sport court, which is officially, and we're looking at 4 of these. It's still less than what you're suggesting.
Well, I agree, but you know, we're talking about a difference between Pennsylvania and here, and there's quite possibly cost differences, concrete costs. There's a lot of different things.
Concrete costs are going to be different. That's why I said we need to find
Right.
a source. And I agree with Christina. Let's get this engineered to make sure we're doing it right and we can do it there. And you know, but the actual sport court is made in the Midwest, and they shipped it to Pennsylvania, so that point is irrelevant.
It seems to me that name, Sport Court, rings a bell. Like Derek had been doing some research on Sport Court at some point for something, so I don't know. But
I don't know.
that rings a bell. That name rings a bell with me.
I think we should just,
Yeah. Push
Table
it and
it.
table it until we know whether we can afford it or not.
yep, okay, perfect. All right, next up, discussion of fitness course at a future Marvin Park. I'm gonna say, well, let's just go ahead and table this. Because I'm not gonna make a decision on this. I don't even wanna know about it until the bond passes, because then I don't wanna get excited about it, and if it doesn't, then I would just wait. Okay, thanks, Tyler, sorry, yep. So we're gonna table that one too. Next up is discussion of sending meeting minutes to HOA president's list. Austin, I'm guessing this is you?
So, yes, this is something you guys brought up at the retreat, and just wanted to allow you to discuss it further and see if this is something you want us to start doing whenever we publish meeting minutes. Do you want us to send them to the HOA's president's list?
Sure. I say we do it for 3 months, and we'll all see if we get it sent out to us as a resident in our neighborhood, and we'll see if the HOA presidents are sending it out, and if they're not, so let's start doing it. We'll do it. We'll reassess at the May meeting. May regular meeting. That'll give us 3 months of work sessions and regular meetings and town hall. And if we're not seeing any sort of response, if we're not hearing anything, if we're not seeing it in our own neighborhoods where we're getting it sent out, then we can stop doing it. We'll give it a 3-month trial.
May I make a suggestion, I should say?
Sure.
And I think Andy and Wayne would agree with me, and if Jill were in the room, I don't see her to be the same. If we could, Austin, reach out to the president of Weddington Chase and ask what his formula is to get people to show up, because 30 people was amazing that showed up for Weddington Chase. Obviously, it's like putting a backhoe in your backyard, but that was a lot of people to present before. And my wife asked, what do you think they're doing? I said, I have no idea. They said, well, you should ask them what they're doing different. But he did say he only got 20 people for his annual meeting. And obviously this affects people's pocketbooks, but just maybe reaching out to the president, finding out, are they doing anything in particular that we're missing or that other communities should be doing?
Yeah, that's a good point, Joe. There were more people than their annual meeting at this. So that he did figure out how to do something better than what's happened so far. So it would be good to know whatever it is.
Well, and they are one of the larger neighborhoods, though. I would say if you look at some of the other meetings proportionally, you know, Valhalla, Providence,
Three
Estates
people
had-
from Firethorn showed up, and one of them was
yeah,
Joe's
that
wife,
was
so-
that was certainly an outlier.
We had
pretty
2
sad.
last night come, so that was good. I mean, 2 people from Firethorn, so that was
well,
good.
that's good.
But is everybody good with a 3-month trial? See how it is? We'll reassess
absolutely.
then?
Yeah.
Okay.
See if it works. If it works, then continue it. If it doesn't, then try to figure out something else.
Perfect. All right, next up, discussion and consideration of expanding ADA parking at Marvin Evers Park. Davey, you're up again, come on down.
So real quick, I'm sorry, Davey, I always do this to you, sorry. No, you're good, you're good. I know we said this a couple of times, and we were gonna put an agenda item on, I just haven't got around to doing it, but I'll go ahead and do it now because it's a precursor to what he's getting ready to say. In your CIP plan last year that you guys adopted, you had a slew of different things that you wanted to get accomplished at the park. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. Park amenities, which included some gaga ball, minor little stuff, and y'all chime in if you remember. Park amenities, lakeside corridor, engineering and planning. I can't remember all the restroom planning. A little laundry list of things, but not anything extremely important. That was around $35,000 with a change of staff and kind of change of priorities and just focusing on what we think we need to do this year, moving forward to event planning and some of the things that we've seen with issues with ADA compliance. We're basically trying to reallocate those funds that were previously allocated for those specific things to what he's getting ready to present. So in short, everything that we said we were going to do in the CIP last year, we're just going to move it back 1 year if you all agree to what he's saying. There's still going to be a little bit of deficit that we'll have to come back for, but basically I've got a good chunk of what he's getting ready to ask you for if y'all are okay with moving those things around. So there you go. Sorry.
No, thank you. Thank you, Christina. And so, yes, the park itself, we're starting to look at, our staff was looking at opportunities to enhance the park through these projects. And one item that keeps coming up is additional parking there. Currently, we have 3 parking lots for the public, one at the entrance there to the park, and then 2 that are adjacent to each other down in the lower part of the park. And then actually there's another small one there at the down at the very end near the lake for the covered shelter. When we were looking around and have experienced in recent events that take place at their Marvin-sponsored events, they're growing and people are getting excited about attending those. We have received several requests for ADA parking in the park during those events. And right now, the park itself has 2 dedicated spots, which meets ADA requirements for the number of lots that we have in the park. And they're located directly in front of the barn, and they're working really well. But if we would like to expand that opportunity to offer ADA parking either all the time, part of the time, or just during special events, one location that could take place is where the right in front of the barn. Right now it's just a horseshoe entrance and exit, and a small parking area. You can get about 4 vehicles. If you park them just right, you can get 5 in there. But typically it's designed for 4 parking spaces. We could essentially asphalt the entire area there in front of the barn out to the driveway, to the road, actually, to the gravel road. In doing that, it could increase the spaces. We got a rough estimate from our engineer up to 22 spaces. I've estimated it'd be closer to 15. Yes, I mean, that's, if you asphalt it and mark the spaces properly, you can get quite a few. You have to remove a couple of trees. Yes, so we went out and looked at the site. There would be 4 trees that would have to be removed for that purpose.
So before we get into that, how many spaces are being requested necessarily? I mean, how many do we actually need? I mean, we have 2, so if we double that number, that's 4. I mean, do we really need 22 spaces? Do we really need 15 spaces?
Let me interject really quick. We would not make all of these spots handicap. We would have basically temporary handicap kind of signs on a base that we would put up during events so that, like Marvin Day, for example, we don't really know how many we need. And unfortunately, if someone comes in and they're handicapped and all of the spots are taken, we still have to kind of figure out how we're going to address those folks. And we can't really discriminate if it's someone that obviously needs it in a wheelchair or, if it's someone that has a handicap placard, we have to provide the opportunity to allow them to park somewhere. So our thought was we pave this in events it could be used with a couple of different, like minor events, it could be used with a couple of different ADA signs that we already have existing, or put a couple temporary ones up with a couple that aren't. And then once we have a bigger event like Marvin Day, we basically designate that entire parking as ADA only. And that kind of alleviates us having to provide so much opportunity in our shuttle service, because that is one of the opportunities where we had an issue trying to find someone that had ADA. If we were able to provide it on the site, it alleviates some concerns that we have elsewhere.
Okay, so again, how many is our target? Because,
We don't know.
okay, because while paving that area is a good idea, I don't necessarily want to take any trees out to accommodate it. I'd prefer to maybe expand some opportunities elsewhere. I think we could quite possibly, well, I think we should consider at least 2 spots in the Lakeside corridor near the shelter down there, so for people to access that particular thing. If they're going to use that shelter, we need something down there, not just at the barn, and then they have to figure out how to get there. Okay, so that's one point. The other point is that I think making ADA access for shuttles, if we have a spot that is paved for and have a shuttle spot, like we have a spot that we're going to use for that, we could make that so that it's accessible for anybody that might need that extra stability getting on and off a shuttle. Maybe we think about maybe a small pad for loading and unloading pedestrians from a shuttle. That might be something to think about as well. I think that we can serve our public better by doing, maybe not all concentrating it all in that one spot, but maybe spreading it out a little bit to accommodate people a little bit better and more around the park. That's just my thought. I think that, I'm not opposed to putting a bunch of parking spots there, but I think if we spread it out a little bit, we might be able to accommodate more people in more situations than just concentrating in that one spot.
Yeah.
Andy, I think you're making a great point there, and along with that, you're right. And if Tyler's in the room, he would attest to this. But that last Marvin Day meeting with the shuttles and how they had to turn around and how dangerous that was at night, if there was a pull-in area and a loop and a drop-off area at one place, maybe in front of the barn, or an area for that, and then as you go further out, it's pointing to go out, is the loading zone and stuff. But how they did it last year, this is just triggering me because I was right there with Tyler too. It was very unsafe, but along with the ADA, figuring out if we're going to start removing trees, a loop system for shuttles, buses.
So we can definitely do that. I think we're getting into an area where I don't feel comfortable that we as a staff can handle that level of design. That's something we would need to get an engineer to actually do. I'll be honest, I think they're great ideas. I just don't know if we will have time to implement all of that and construction by Marvin Day of this year. So that kind of backs us up into the corner of, we can definitely start working on those things. I don't know if y'all want to do a temporary kind of, let's do a phase 1 and do some of what he's asking for, and then additionally look into some of the things you're mentioning, because they're great points. We're going to be in a situation where if we don't do something in the next couple of weeks, Tyler's going to have to go to his shuttle service and kind of rearrange what they had planned for ADA compliance on Marvin Day.
Well, so just a thought. Okay, so I suggested ADA parking in the Lakeside corridor. Okay, so there was a driveway there. There's a parking lot there. It's already sloped. All that kind of stuff. I don't think that would be too difficult to get a couple of spots paved down there. So, just a thought. If we do pave the existing, like you're proposing, and we use that as the shuttle stop, the loop to work them through, and we do provide some ADA parking there as well, but use that as the shuttle stop. That gets people on a firm surface at the barn where most people are going to go to begin with, and for loading and unloading, and that also gives the opportunity for a loop, so it makes it a little bit safer as far as getting the buses there. They don't have to back up, they just pull through, drop off there. If we add the other ADA parking down in the Lakeside corridor, I don't think that's gonna be that big of a thing. It's probably, from my experience with everything, it's already a parking lot, so it's probably gonna be, the sub base is already there. So it's
Yeah.
just gonna be adding asphalt to that.
Yeah,
I
but
don't think
that's
there's gonna
not-
take a lot.
No, I agree, but that's not the top priority. The top priority is figuring out, because nobody can park down there during Marvin Day.
Well, they
So-
can.
No, they can't.
Why can't they? It's
The
parking.
Lakeside
It's the
corridor because
firework-
of the
the
fireworks.
fireworks barrier.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. I forget about that.
So the bus that Tyler has picked is pretty long. It is not going to be able to loop around at the barn. There's
Oh, you
no.
got bigger,
He did, because instead of doing two smaller ones, we did one larger one, because we're gonna try to do parking at the park. So there's no way that that bus is gonna be able to turn around at the barn. And he's gotten one that doesn't really need the ADA compliance situation, because we're trying to get more ADA parking at the park. Am I correct, Tyler? Okay. So really the main thing is right at the barn. So how many, I don't think we have time to get the engineer drawings. To your point, we need an engineered drawing. We need to make sure we're doing everything correctly. I don't think we're gonna have time to do that, figure out the plan, and get it done before Marvin Day.
If we're just talking about the parking lot that we're talking about, we've already got our engineer involved in this. He's not doing any plans, but we could probably, he knows what we're doing. He's been out there, he's looked at it, he's measured it. He's got a good grasp of what we're doing. So I feel like he would be able to produce something pretty quickly on just what he's referring to.
So are you talking about taking the trees out in the middle?
yeah, I'm not in
Be the-
favor of that.
with
I'm in
trees
favor of
between the two entrances.
paving what's there, but I'm not in favor of tearing anything out.
Yeah, I mean, I like the horseshoe idea. There's two, in front of that barn, you can get, I would say, at least 6 to 7 cars. I know you said like 4, but I don't know,
Well,
because people park like ding dongs, but I feel like if you actually have like lined spots, like you could probably get
Yes.
6 or 7.
Well, part of
spots
it
there.
is, well, we definitely, you have to have at least one spot that's gonna be van accessible for side
Well,
unloading and wheelchair.
right now, that whole
But-
big section is like,
But to like you say, you can get 6 or 7 cars. You don't, all ADA parking doesn't have to be van accessible. You have to have a couple of them,
Well-
but for people who just,
And if you're gonna pave the whole thing, like the whole circle, can't you do like maybe a parallel spot on each side?
I
Or
think that's-
maybe 2?
would imagine that's probably in the plan, but
I'm with Andy. I kinda like having those trees there. It gives a little bit of character. I'm fine if we wanna pave it, but I don't like the idea of getting rid of the middle section.
And again, we can add more parking throughout the park to accommodate more people. I don't think we have to concentrate it all at the barn.
So Davey, did you measure out how many you could get without taking the trees out?
No, I have not. I've provided the square footage, the estimated square footage to the engineer, and he came back with his cost estimate with the number of spaces. That's why I kind of backed off that number of 22. I felt like it'd be closer to 15, just kind of eyeballing it myself. But
So-
if we don't remove the trees, we may be able to get a few more spaces in there on the diagonal parking.
So this is a way more expensive option, and I'm not even sure we could do it, but what are your thoughts of paving the entire top lot and then creating a ADA compliant sidewalk going down from there to the barn?
Top lot, you mean the one just inside the gate?
Yeah, right when you turn in to the left. It's gonna be a lot more costly.
You're talking about just the farthest one in, back to the back, and
Right
then
when you
the
pull in, turn to the left.
The whole
thing.
The whole thing.
What about the back section and then path to the barn? Well, that would provide, I think you can get like 10 or 12 cars on that back lot. If you park it and line it, you can get 10 or 12 cars in there, because you got both sides. I think you can get like 5 or 6 on each side. That may be an option there. That's a good thought. I really feel like that.
And we've already got a path that goes from that
Right.
back section to where the bathroom is.
It's a gravel path, you would have to make it,
Good, but
Yeah.
we'd have the base for it and stuff like that.
I think that,
Although it'd be more expensive, I agree that as soon as you come in, the very back to the left, the very back lots, if you were to pave that area and make a walkway and then have an opportunity for ADA drop-off only right in front of the barn, because, you know, you may have a situation where they're not fully, thing, but more of a drop-off type point,
during,
but.
during events, but as far as permanent parking, I guess you should have some permanent parking at the barn
Right,
as well
right.
for non-event times. But right, I agree, Joe, for events, we cordon it off for ADA drop-off, and then we could have that other parking over there. Because that would it would streamline it, right? The idea is accessibility. So during events, when we have extreme amount of people, it would make sense to do it as a drop-off area
so,
at the barn. Like if
I know, but I'm telling you, that bus is not gonna be able to
no,
turn
no,
around
no,
there.
no, for cars, for people
Oh, cars,
for
cars.
a drop-off
Individuals.
area.
Okay, sorry.
Just for big events where we have lots and lots of people, if people need to have access and then go park somewhere, and then there would be some designated spots for people who are driving themselves, obviously, but
And
help.
that,
So are we gonna pave at the barn?
yes.
so you want to do the barn and,
Yes, but not necessarily
The horseshoe.
immediately. The short term, I would want to get the barn paved if we can get it done by Marvin Day. The horseshoe there, that's going to at least increase what we have now. It's going to be better than what we have. And then let's look at pricing for that top lot and maybe two at the Lakeside corridor.
okay, so let me make sure I'm understanding correctly. The bottom lot, in front of the barn, you basically just want to put asphalt on what's the existing kind of landscape there now, with as many as we can get in, okay? So we'll look at,
and increase the number maybe by 2, if we can, of the ADA spaces. So you could put a couple in there.
I think that we can do those temporary,
Temporary.
like signs where we can move them, and we can make, at Marvin Day, we can make all of those spots.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right, because we
ADA
don't really
compliant.
need more than what we have on a day-to-day. We don't
Correct.
have that
Correct. And then we
traffic
just
there.
roll them in, roll them out, and then,
Right.
yeah, but I
So-
agree, I think we should do that.
And
Keep
the
going,
back
sorry.
upper lot, you want to make the path go to the barn or to the bathrooms and then catch that other path.
Up to the bathrooms, because it's already there, and then you take the sidewalk down, but we're gonna have to pave that.
Yep.
I mean, if we're gonna make that back area
so
additional,
I just want to be clear, because we'll work on the quote to, you have a quote already to basically do what you're saying,
I have
on the,
I have an estimate,
which is what, 30-ish, 40-ish?
45.
45 for what we referred to as the barn parking, but that is with the tree removal.
That's with
and
tree
doing all that.
removal
Yeah.
and paving the whole thing.
Yeah.
Whereas we're talking about just the horseshoe.
Yeah, and so
That was
there
not the actual tree removal itself, but that was paving the area of where the trees were, so that would be an additional.
There would be a lot of gravel brought in, that would be expensive to do that spot comparatively.
So Davies asked for y'all today, and we don't need a budget amendment because the money is already there, is if you're okay with us spending the amount that's already bid out, it doesn't have to be bid because it's part of the asphalt all-inclusive contract that we have, so we're not asking for anything that would be a waiver of a policy. We would just be getting it at the cost per unit that our vendor has already procured that RFP process, and the price would around about be in 30 to 40, based on the changes that it sounds like we're going to make. So if y'all are okay with that, can I get a consensus from council on the barn parking upfit based on the existing landscape? There's no shuttle drop-off patch included in that. We can see if we can add that, but that, as I'm asking now, is not included in what I'm telling you. Is there a consensus on that portion?
yeah.
Yes, there
Yes.
is. And I just had a thought, and then just interject here. We're talking about Marvin Day drop-offs and stuff with this bigger bus. Would it make sense, and this is just, I'm just thinking here, would it make sense with this bigger bus to be able to go to the lakeside parking area to turn around and come back and drop off passengers at the barn parking area?
One of the things that I'll mention before the guys interject is we had parking issues last year, and we had to start lining people up on the sides of the road. We think we can get a better grasp of that this year, but if we are talking about on-site parking, that's kind of some prime opportunity for parking spots if we need it. And I don't know how comfortable you guys feel with having a lot of traffic coming in and people walking through. That's a decision for y'all
I
to
was just
make.
thinking, since we're gonna,
Hold
since
on, I
nobody
know
can
what
park.
you're asking, but I don't know what you just said.
So last year, the guys, we had issues with, we were lining people up on the sides at some point. They also had,
But why were they lining up on sides? Because nobody was supposed to be parking there.
we had issues with vendor parking, which we
Okay,
think we
keep
can,
going.
yeah,
Alright,
we
keep
think we
going.
can address. They also had kind of barricaded sections off to keep people from parking there and from like walking around. So it would be tight if we do the barricades, if we kind of rope things off like we did last year, and/or anyone's parking on that side, which we can prohibit, but we have generally used portions of the side for event overflow parking when there's a lot of cars and people.
Well,
And
so my thing is.
I know what you're saying. I
Yeah.
still don't know what that has to do
Yeah,
with
so
that.
I think maybe you're confused as to what I'm asking. So,
you're wanting the bus to go all the way down, turn back around, and basically what I'm saying is it's gonna be tight, and there's gonna be
Yep.
people walking
going
through.
to be tight anyway. I mean, if we got to get the bus in, but that would seem like the prime.
No,
Hang
hold
on a
on.
second, Joe. Let me
Hang
finish
on.
this thought. So what I'm saying is that we're gonna rope off that parking area down there because it's gonna be where the fireworks are gonna be. We don't want parking down there. So it's a good, safe place for that bus to turn around, rather than trying to turn around like they were last year at the entrance and causing all kinds of
Yeah.
chaos. We're talking about the vehicle going down, turning around and coming back up and disembarking passengers in front of the barn and then leaving the park and going back on its loop. I feel like that would be more efficient in all respects, so that you're getting people, so they're not walking so far in traffic. They'll be dropped off at the barn, and then it gets the bus in, turned around, and headed back out before it unloads its passengers, and then it's only an in and out with that bus. So you can maximize the parking all around wherever you are, and then we're not backing over somebody trying to turn the bus around because they can't park down there.
So,
That's my point.
right, and so, okay, so I like that. So when you're talking about people are gonna be walking everywhere and you don't necessarily want the bus coming all the way down, my plan, if we are having cars parking in the park, we are gonna have each side of the driveway roped off, and you're gonna have 2 crosswalks. So you're only going to have 2 opportunities to cross that main drag, so that people aren't just gonna be willy-nilly all over the place. I mean, that's kind of how we had walked it out, and we were like, okay, we're gonna put up like caution tape, or we're gonna do something so that people can't just cross. And I would like to ask, because I think that that's a. Just let me know whenever you guys are finished. Just kidding. Can we check with the fireworks guy if they're okay? I would think that the only time that they wouldn't be is like right before the fireworks are gonna start, clearly during the fireworks. But I think after that, they would be fine before having the turnaround and then after. I mean, we're gonna have to have somebody working that barricade, so when the bus does come in and turn around. But again, it's such a shortened period of time that it's not all day. It's not, 9 to 12 or 9 to 10. It's going to be 4 to 10.
And we can
Can
just
I
suspend the
present?
shuttle
yet.
during, we can just suspend the shuttle service during the
Yeah,
times
the
that it's not
fireworks.
allowed to be in there. and
What do you
that's-
want me to ask the firework guy?
If they're okay, if the bus literally comes in and just turns around and then leaves.
Until,
Inside of the barricaded area?
yeah.
Yes.
And we could do that. We can find out what I don't know if has to be shut down when they start setting up or
I don't
when
think
it's
that
just.
that's allowed. The fire marshal will come in and inspect it, and he'll make sure that whole area is cleared out. And it's not because of
Can't
the
use
fallout,
that.
it's because of any explosions that might happen throughout the day, and those fireworks will be mobilized at 12. So I just don't,
So we
I don't
can't use
think that,
So we can't get all the way down to the far entrance to turn around in the parking lot because it's going to be closed.
That's what
you
we're
won't be able to
concerned
tap,
of.
you won't be able to go into that perimeter.
Okay.
So
Will that mean that you won't be able to park vehicles down there either?
No.
So how far
Okay,
back?
well, let me present one other option instead of going all the way down to the end. As you go right past the barn, there's the left turn to go down to the maintenance shed. Then you have, right beyond that is a field. Now, I remember where you could get two sets of parking, one on the far end that butts up against the brush, and then one closer to the road that leads to the very back of the turnaround. Wouldn't it be possible to create where that bus goes in there and does the turnaround there instead of having to go all the way down to the thing and then do the drop off at the
No.
bus? And then,
No, because we talked about this like 8 meetings ago, that we're going to utilize that for parking.
And also, that's more like a field that's on an incline. If we had inclement weather
Yeah,
for
that bus
the
is
week
getting
prior,
stuck
I
there.
don't think that'd be good for a
We
bus.
could just loop them around in the parking lot driveways, if that's,
I mean,
if that works too.
Tyler and I have talked about it, and we think that the best thing to do is pull into the first lot, have them pull straight in, stop, back up, stop, let everybody out, and then leave.
That's what they were doing last year. but
They
it
were not, they
causes-
were not doing that last year. Last year, they were coming all the way in, and they were coming all the way around to that front parking lot, because there weren't
no, they
people
weren't,
parked.
Cam. They were.
I
they were
watched
coming
him,
around
I
in the
watched him
front.
do it.
It was causing a lot of congestion at the entrance because the buses were trying to traverse there and people trying to get in and out. It was creating a bottleneck at the entrance.
They were. You're exactly right, Andy, because I was directing traffic and it was a mess.
Okay, so then where do you suggest we do it, since you
So-
weren't listening to our other meetings when we were telling you we're putting parking there?
No, I know. I remember you're putting parking there. What we're trying to find out now, is my understanding, is how do we get the buses to come in, drop off, and then go out and without having to back up. So if you can't do it on the side that, John, you were saying that's an incline right there. What about on the other side? If they're going to park cars there, you should be able to have access between cars where the bus can pull in and drive. And yes, inclement weather, we're just have to roll the dice on
Where
that.
are you
But
talking about?
All right, well,
on the other side of the
I-
like,
I think the other side is limited to some things that we can do because that's a future potential septic field as well. I know there are limitations of some of the things that
One
we
of the
can do with that field as far as,
We parked there. You mean where the RV was last year, Joe?
yeah.
yes.
I mean, we parked there. We're planning on using that for
So
parking.
one thing that Hunter actually
Right, but-
brought up is what if the buses don't actually enter the park? What if they pull up in the driveway, unload passengers, and continue down the road, make a loop? Would that be
We talked about
simpler?
that too, and then getting all the way around is gonna be significantly longer, and
Okay.
that stoplight gets really backed up.
Okay, that was
We
just
talked about
it was
it.
a thought, and that, so, okay, well,
It won't go, yeah,
So
no.
staff's direction is to start work on the pavement.
yeah, that's really.
If y'all want to have some continued conversations about the shuttle,
Yeah.
we can do that, or we can rely that back on the Marvin Day Committee to.
Yeah,
Well, how about the Marvin Day Committee figure it out?
yeah.
We've done
how
a pretty
about
good
that?
job so
Yeah,
far.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
Get kind of off.
All right, next up, consider of installing additional low voltage lighting at Marvin Eford Park. Davey, you're up again. Is this the same stuff? We're just adding it?
Yes, so this may go hand in hand potentially with what some of the discussion you just had. So recently, Public Works staff installed the pedestal lighting around the upper parking lot and the lower parking lots. It works really well during events. We have the ability on the current low voltage circuit to add 3 more lights of these pedestal lights if you so chose to. And we could actually add those along what would be the walking path, the area of the walking path from the upper parking lot to the playground barn area. So
Are these leftover posts, or is it something more you want to
We
add?
would have to-
Yeah.
we would have to
So you have
purchase
a
them.
capacity on the, you should have even more capacity than that, actually, with the transformers that you got, right?
well, we narrowed it down to you can get 7 lights on a transformer for the distance that we have.
Okay.
So we have 3 transformers now, but the way it worked out, actually, we've got space, enough low voltage and amperage to add 3 more lights. So we could purchase the lights, staff could install them in right now, the gravel walking path between the upper parking lot and the playground. That could be used for lighting the more concrete path should we move forward with ADA plans in the
Yeah,
future.
I'm all for it. I mean, if you can get more lighting in there, and you got the room on the circuits, I mean, 3 lights isn't really that much. I mean,
We priced it out, and it could be as cheap as about $900 to purchase the lights and install them. It could increase up to $1,200 should we need additional wiring and things like that.
I
or a
think
transformer.
that would make sense. I think at the last event, one of the things, you were talking about how we could potentially put some of those lights that you did out front between the barn and the bathroom. But I think it was pointed out, and we weren't utilizing them at the time, but there are some floods that we already have that staff wasn't aware of, that kind of flood that path between the barn. One comes from the bathroom back to the barn. So I don't know if we only have a limited number. I think it is right to focus it more on that unlit path that we would be doing to the ADA things, and not worry so much as those that I think staff came to realize can be covered with those floods.
Yes, sir. I think in what I was saying to the playground and barn, I mean actually to the walkway for the two. So it'd be between the walkway and the upper parking lot. So we would just kind of be lighting that dark area now that goes through or past the picnic area. So,
okay.
But you're right. We have other opportunities there at the restrooms and the barn themselves to replace those lights. Yeah.
All right, yeah, I mean, that sounds good if you can do it. And we've got, the styles and all that stuff and where to get the
Yes,
lights. So
we pulled
to
the
make 'em
information
match.
from the last order.
Okay.
So, Davey, that's just 3 lights. That's not the same distance as what is existing in the parking lot, correct?
Well, the way the parking lot is laid out, the linear feet required us to install 2 transformers. So I think in the upper parking lot, we have 10 lights, 7 are on 1 transformer. So we're going to add 3 more to the other transformer.
So I just want to make sure y'all were okay with that and you understood that it wasn't going to be the same distance as what's already there. Like the lights between the parking,
We'll just be adding them on that same circuit.
no, I mean the distance between each light. Like if it's
Oh, yeah,
over here,
so
it's 2
they're-
feet apart. Yes.
So they're
Yeah.
50 to 75
Yes.
feet between each light would be.
I didn't
should
know if
be
y'all wanted to
sufficient.
add more. That's why I wanted to make sure y'all were aware it was a bigger distance for consistency's sake. And then just minor thing, we didn't budget for this, so we'll have to come back and do a budget amendment later, just so you know.
Yeah, well, it's, like he said, it's $1,000 or less probably, more than likely, so it's not that much. But for the cost versus effect, it's certainly worth it.
Is there a consensus to do it? I'm hearing. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, there is. Do we want to, I'm sorry to throw the sticky wicket in, but do we want to do it from the barn to the shed on that path?
We could certainly do that if
I mean, because that
that's
is
council's wish.
dark too, and people use that a lot to go from the shed and that parking lot down there and that upper parking lot. And I mean, people are going to be doing that on Marvin Day probably.
We could certainly do that. Now, that will increase the cost because we will need another transformer and an additional wiring. But
That's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to look at doing that.
I think that one makes sense too, because, especially because we're trying to keep people from walking down the side of the road.
Correct.
That's a way to funnel them outside the back of the barn down there, and if it's lit up well, I
Well, and
think
that's,
that makes sense.
this is great. I mean, I designed that first system just for the parking lots, knowing that after we got that in, we could certainly
Add to
add
it.
to
Yeah.
it, and, as we figured it out, because now we've had an event under our belt since the lights have gone in, now
Right.
we've learned
And they
some
look
things and where we
great.
can
Yeah.
improve, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Let's look at adding that to it as well. I would say let's go ahead and do this. Do you want a motion for this one, Austin?
Yes.
Okay, so I need a motion to waive the two-quit requirement for the purchase of lighting equipment for Marvin Eford Park, and I'm going to go ahead and include the upper parking lot to the bathrooms and the barn path to the shed pathway. Just get it done.
So moved.
Further discussion? All's in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. All right, presentations. Can we take a 5-minute break, please? All right, we need a motion for that?
Motion for 5-minute recess.
Yeah, that.
I'd make a motion for a 5-minute recess.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No, I did not. Well, I'm.
here's what I was trying to explain.
We good? Austin, you ready? Okay, my apologies. Back in session. Presentations from the Andes, is it Diaz? Yes, of the Union County Community Shelter. Welcome, come on down. You can come to the podium. Happy to have you.
Hi, good morning. Thank you guys for having us.
Real quick, I just wanted to say thank you for coming, and sorry I couldn't be there today to be there for it, but I know we talked it back on election night, so thank you for coming and being here.
Yeah, of course, thank you. And that was actually Andy's, our board chair, and Joe connected, as he said, on election day. So we're so happy to be here and just share more about our organization and what we do and how we serve the community. So we are the Community Shelter of Union County. My name's Melissa McCowan, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the shelter. We are the only homelessness services provider in all of Union County, and we provide an array of services, including street outreach, emergency shelter, economic mobility programming, rapid rehousing, and our food services. We serve about 3,500 unique individuals every year, and it is true that about 70% of those come from the eastern side of the county, but there are about 30% of those folks that are coming from the western side of the county. We, as I said, emergency shelter, food, and rehousing are really what we focused on for a long time. So emergency shelter is just what it sounds like. People come to us when they don't have anywhere else to stay and they're having an experience of homelessness. We have a 90-bed facility, and because we're the only provider, we serve all demographics. So single adult men, single adult women, and family units. I think it's really important to note last year our request from families for assistance increased by 48%, which is not unique to Union County. You see that happening all across the nation when you're watching the news or things like that. Our single requests for help increased by 28%. So, I think it's really safe to say that the affordable housing crisis that's happening nationwide is affecting us and is impacting the crisis of homelessness in our community. Our food programs, we have a soup kitchen, the only soup kitchen in Union County that is open 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. We never, ever close. That's 1,095 opportunities for people to come and get meals. Of course, that's open to people in shelter, but also the community at large. There's no means test for that, so we just ask for people not to go a day without a meal when they can come to us and eat. And then our rehousing program. So if you want to end homelessness, you help people find housing, and that's what we've done since 2012. Last year, we helped 108 individuals move from homelessness to housing. That's a little low, and again, we credit that to the lack of affordable housing. Housing prices have increased over the last 5 years in Union County by 51%. Which is astounding. Right now, the wage that it would take to afford a fair market rent 2-bedroom apartment is $28.66 an hour, which is 4 times the wage, the minimum wage that we have in North Carolina right now. So it's, you know, you can see where that gets tricky for people. And I just wanted to come and share, one of our goals is really awareness. We want you guys to know that we exist and we're in the same county as you all. I'm sure, you know, we're located in Monroe, so we can visually see homelessness probably a lot more often than you guys do out on this side of the county. But we want you all to know that it is happening, and we want you to be aware of who we are and what we do. And another reason why we think it's important for you guys to know about us is because it's a great opportunity for people to volunteer, right? So you've got senior or high school students, you've got college students, and you've got senior citizens who are all looking for ways to use their time. Especially our high school and senior students need those hours, those volunteer hours for, you know, for their education. So I just want to make sure you guys know who we are and how to get connected with us. We've got some annual reports. Did you pass those out? Oh, we've got some annual reports to share with you all. And yeah, we'd love to be connected. We'd love to have you guys come down and tour if you're able to. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I know that through my employer, we have a thing with the United Way. Are you one of those local organizations that we can direct?
We are.
Okay, great.
We are, yeah.
So, this is wonderful. Thank you for coming and presenting and talking to us today. I was going to ask about volunteer opportunities. I'm actually on the board of the Marvin chapter of the Young Men's Service League.
Oh, great.
And we absolutely need service hours, and we would love, we've got a lot of opportunities up in Charlotte, but we would love to be able to serve Union County. So if I can connect with you,
Yes.
that would be fantastic, because we really are looking for some opportunities. And weekend opportunities, obviously during the week is very difficult because it's a mom-son organization, so moms and sons do it together. So we're really looking for some, I mean, during the week in the evenings and stuff, but definitely.
weekends are- right.
are preferable, but summer hours, we volunteer over the summer, so I would love to connect with you and see how we can kind of partner up. That would be great.
Fantastic.
I've met quite a few people that have come out, some moms with their sons.
Yeah.
That have come out to help us with different projects.
Good.
You know, we do a drive-through pantry once a month, and I've had quite a few people from your organization. come
Good,
out.
yeah, it's
So
probably
it's wonderful.
it's probably the Waxhaw chapter, because we just started
Yes.
this year, so
It is,
we're,
yes.
so we're really looking to partner up with, again, we've got a lot of opportunities in Charlotte, but we really want some more in Union
Hey.
County, so.
Hey, John, what
That'd be
were
great.
you referring to?
So if your employer has an affiliation with the
United
Way, when you make your benefits choice or your donation choices, you can actually designate it to go to a specific organization rather than just their general fund. So my question was, are they one of those affiliated organizations that I could speak to my employer and say, rather than the general fund, I'd like it go directly to this organization?
Right, and when United Way campaigns usually happen in the fall, and on your designation form, you can request that it go to a certain organization. So, yeah, and we appreciate when that happens. It's really helpful for
And
us.
there's also, my husband works for Bank of America. He actually knows your husband. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But, like Bank of America matches his donation each
Yeah.
month. So, you know, up to a certain amount, but I mean, they match it dollar for dollar up to a certain amount, which is awesome.
It's hard to hear her, so I'm not sure what,
She's just saying that Bank of America matches up to a certain dollar amount, and I think it's $5,000, which is
and
great.
that's what I was getting to, because we do our annual charitable stuff for individuals who want to donate, because we have a policy from a municipal standpoint that we can't necessarily take funds from our general funds and donate to something, because you got to understand that people are already paying taxes to Union County, which fund this. But if there are individuals who want to donate or volunteer, there are matching opportunities with major corporations that people may be with. I think my wife's on boards that match that too, so be interested in looking at that.
Great. Any other questions?
Anybody have any questions? No? Do you guys have cards? We could
Yes,
have?
I'll bring some cards in and leave them
That would be
here.
fantastic. All right.
Yeah, thank you guys so much
No,
for your
thank
time.
you for coming
Yep.
today. We really
Have a great
appreciate
day.
it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is presentation of audit highlights from auditors SP Douglas. Jill. Come on down.
Hello, my friends. I'm probably just going to have to message him real fast because he was on earlier. He's on now? Okay. So each of you should have an audit book in front of you. I tried to rescue yours from our retreats. If any of you took one home and you have an extra, just bring it back when you come again. But we do have Lee Grissom from SP Douglas on Zoom with us today, and he is going to give you his auditor's opinion and walk you through some of our audit highlights that I had touched on at the retreat. So Lee, whenever you're ready.
All right, thanks. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We sure can. Hello, Lee. Thank you for
All
being
right.
here.
Terrific. Thanks for having me on remotely. So I'm here to present the June 30th, 2023 audit. This is our 5th year auditing the Village of Marvin. The good news, we'll just get out of the way. We issued a clean audit opinion, also referred to as an unmodified audit opinion on the June 30th, 2023 financials. So that's our highest level of assurance as an independent audit firm, working with the Village of Marvin. So basically, in a nutshell, that's saying you can rely on these financial statements, that they're free of material misstatement. So overall, the financial trends have been strong for the last 9 fiscal years. I'll run through a couple of graphs at the end of this presentation. There was one internal control finding that we've noted in the last, I think, 3 or 4 fiscal years, the segregation of duties audit finding. So that's in the back of the report on pages, let's see if you do have the report handy, but I'm not going to go over it. I'm just going to point out the page numbers. But page 48 and 49. 49 is the corrective action plan, or the response to the finding. But the segregation of duties finding, what that's essentially saying, which I mention every year, is due to the small business staff that the village has had historically, there's just sort of inherently issues with separating the duties, as would be ideal if you had more staff. So that's what that finding is. But other than that, as far as internal controls, the books were in good order. We didn't, come across any budget issues or anything else that was alarming. This fiscal year, the village changed the general ledger codes, which that was a little bit of a headache this year, and it did delay the audit slightly. We issued the audit November 30th, so I think last year we may have issued it a month earlier, but that was kind of a minor hiccup. Total assets at June 30th, 17 million. Total liabilities, 1.6 million. Net position, just under 15 million. And the total net position increased by 622,000 this year. One interesting thing to note, if you were to look at these statements, the government-wide balance sheet has unspent grant funds as a liability totaling 900,000. So that's fairly unusual. What that is your American Rescue Funds grant money was unspent, totaling 343,000 at June 30, 2023. The Park Project Fund had unspent grant funds of 406,000, and then the SCIF Fund had 150,000. So that totaled the 900,000. So when those grant funds are ultimately spent, that revenue will free up, and then there will be a matching expenditure. So that's the one thing a little bit unusual. But from a standpoint of the general fund, a very strong general fund balance. When we submit these audits, we are required to submit a data input sheet that goes along with it. And the Local Government Commission has really been flagging trouble areas, and there's been more things that have been flagged this year. But I reviewed that earlier today, and there were no issues in the data input sheet for the Village of Marvin. So for example, your general fund balance that they calculate was 162%. And that's compared to a minimum of 34% and an average of 63%. So you're well over double the average of municipalities roughly the same size. So you're doing good with the general fund. Couple of housekeeping items. We did not encounter any significant difficulties with management during the audit. There were no new accounting policies And we did not consult with other auditors. So overall, it was a good audit. There was the one internal control finding, which is typical, or that we see every year. And the books were in pretty good shape. So let me share the graphs real quick. Okay, I'm going to run through this fairly quickly because I imagine you guys are aware of this information from your staff, but this is 9 years of fiscal year information. There's only maybe 4 or 5 graphs to go through. But the first one is analysis of fund balance governmental funds. And so you have from 2015 to 2023, so your total fund balance in governmental funds is $3.5 million at June 30th, 2023. And you can see how that stacks up with the other fiscal years. I think this fiscal year is the second highest fund balance in the last 9 years. The next one is number of months in reserve general fund. And as I mentioned earlier, the LGC has a slightly different calculation, which actually puts you guys have actually a higher reserve according to the LGC, but this one has you at 90.4%, which is about 11 months in reserve. So that's unassigned fund balance divided by general fund expenditures, which is that calculation. So you've been in a good spot. The village has been in a good spot the last 4 fiscal years. And you can look all the way back in 2015 and 16, you were at 0 in reserve. So I'm not really sure what was happening those 2 fiscal years, but overall in a good spot with the general fund and from a reserve standpoint. The next one is total cash, all funds. So by fiscal year at June 30th, 2023, you're at $4.3 million. So that's looks like that's the second highest in the last 9 fiscal years at June 30th. And a lot of that would be your unspent, that $900,000 of unspent grant funds would be included in that. So you would assume that $900,000 is going to be spent probably in the next fiscal year or 2. Last graph, long-term debt by fiscal year. Nothing too interesting here. You can see debts being paid down. There was a significant increase in debt in 2021. And then you can see the decrease is the principal being paid on that debt.
Just a question here. Is the initial debt that we see declining coming from the park acquisition?
It's Village Hall.
Well, I'm talking about the first one, and then the second one, I'm assuming, would be Village Hall?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so those are the graphs. Again, overall, good audit. No issues from our standpoint. Clean audit opinion, the one finding that was noted, and yeah, is there any questions?
Well, I wanted to clarify something just for the general public. You said that the $900,000 that we have from unspent grant money, it's unusual. We are still operating from this standpoint, it's unusual, but we are still operating, expending that money within the confines of these grants. So we had a certain amount of time to spend the ARPA funds. We have a certain amount of time to spend the grant funds, and we are not exceeding those. It's just something your finding is from the audit procedure, correct?
That's correct. And when I mentioned kind of an outlier, I meant I typically see it with ARPA or SCIF, but the fact that you see on the screen there's 3 different funds with unearned unspent grant proceeds, that from my standpoint, when I work with mid-sized, smaller municipalities, I don't typically see 3 funds have that or have a balance of that size for a municipality the size of the Village of Marvin. That's what I meant, but there's nothing as far as there's nothing wrong with it. I'm just kind of pointing it out.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that for the general public so that they understand that comment.
That's a good thing.
I was gonna
We've
say,
done a
that-
good job getting in the money
Aggressively
for a
getting grant
municipality
money,
our
so-
Yeah,
size.
exactly.
Say that again, John, because that's exactly what I was getting
That
ready to
we've
say.
done a good job as a municipality And that reflects that, you know, for a village our size, that's why that kind of stands out, and it's really in a good way.
Yeah, it does reflect staff's hard work. Specifically, our village manager has worked really hard. Hunter Nestor, planning director, has worked really hard as well to source grant money for various projects. And some of the reasons why this money is unspent is because we know years in advance when projects are happening and coming, and we immediately start trying to source grants for that. Oftentimes, that grant money will come in, and they'll give us a few years of a window to utilize it, but we're very proactive and try to move fast to secure that funding when we know a project is a few years out. So it does speak to how much grant money we are taking in compared to our overall budget each year.
And Lee, I was going to ask, as we looked at those charts, and just for the record, so people understand, we looked at the fund balance, the reserves, the total cash on hand, the debt level. In your opinion, I'm assuming you work with other municipalities, how do we rank and how do we rate? Are we at the top of the list as far as ideal situations, or are we middle of the road, or are we, you know, just average? Just
Yeah, relative to size, I would say strong.
okay. And then the second question I had for you is, and this is something that came up at the retreat, how do you, and this is an accounting thing, but how do you look at a road as an asset when I look at it as a liability when I gotta repair it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Hold on one second. Sorry, I had a phone ringing.
I just didn't know how to answer it. I know we popped on our net worth or whatever it is that we could maybe borrow off of down the road, but you know, when I started, it was maybe just over $1 million, $2 million, and then it popped, and then all of a sudden we got roads and we're at 14 million.
Sorry about that. Sorry, the phone keeps going off.
Sorry.
So while we're waiting, I did ask this question to Erica, who is our CPA firm that we use that prepares our internal financial statements, which basically is what Lee takes and audits those. So Erica is the group that actually prepares kind of that net asset, those fixed asset values. One of the questions I had asked her in terms of roads, he can answer the question on how they're valued at an asset and not a liability. But basically, we take, from a standpoint of what we do internally, and I say we, it's really our CPA firm, not the village itself, takes those net assets like a road, and we take it from the time of purchase or when we get it, and we assign a value on it. So for example, if it's a road we obtained from a developer or a road that we built ourselves, we would assign the value based on the purchase price or what it would equate to if we were to build that road today. And they take that number and they plug it into the model, and it goes along with all the other things that we have assets like Village Hall, and then they depreciate based off of the useful life. And that's kind of how the simplest way that I can explain how those numbers are created. Now, in terms of how they're valued at an asset versus a liability, I'm sure there's some type of IRS rule on that Lee can speak to, but I'm not really sure.
And I think when you're looking at a balance sheet, you're balancing assets with liabilities, and essentially, when you look at the roads as an asset, that's because roads typically can help increase economic opportunity, things of that nature. So I think that's really why you're doing it to a degree, because there is a value to the community in the roads, and that's why it has to be listed on the asset side of the balance sheet. Does that make sense?
So Lee, what's your
Joe, I would say a lot of assets have liabilities attached to them. It's like, do you want to value your, if you own a home, is a home considered an asset because I have to furnish it and it's got all these issues, liabilities that come with it, but I would still consider it an asset.
Okay. No, it's fair. It just came up, and I just, because it was such a different amount, and I'm looking at it as what we spend on roads, and I get it. There's a cost to that. We take it, but we would never sell those roads because nobody would be there to buy them unless there was a neighborhood saying, yeah, we want to go private again. And we would, I don't know, maybe sell the road back to them. And I don't know if that would ever happen, but just that's an accounting thing. That's why I didn't go to accounting school. So just out of curiosity. Thank you, though.
Hey,
All
Lee,
right, does anybody have any other questions for Lee?
I've got one real quick. Lee, can you go back to that deferred grant funding, just because I want to highlight one thing before next year comes? How, that one. How does, we have a couple of pretty major grants coming up to the tune of about $2 million. $2 million grants that will be coming up in this year that we will likely start spending, but we have to spend those funds and then get reimbursed. How would they be recorded in this kind of snap sheet of where we're looking at here? Because that will change, I guess.
Generally speaking, and we'll usually review the compliance for each grant if we have any questions. Generally speaking, you want to match the revenue and expense in the same year, so you're not showing a profit or a loss with the grants. So if it's a reimbursement grant, you would probably, if you spent the money first and we felt comfortable booking a receivable, I mean, that's generally the case, but sometimes you do have a deficit fund balance for a year where it's a timing thing.
Okay.
But I'd say generally we would match revenue and expenses through a receivable.
So where it says accounts receivable in the asset section, let's just say we had $1 million spent and then $1 million that we hadn't received before the year closed, we would kind of see that wash in the receivable and the expenditure.
Generally, yes. But I mean, I work with the town of Emerald Isle, and they have a bunch of FEMA money coming in and out for, the beaches. And I do recall off the top of my head, we had to research it, and there was a deficit at a point in time. But ultimately, it's going to net to zero, but there can be a deficit. It just depends. It just depends on the facts.
The timing. So just so y'all know, next year, hopefully it'll be a wash, but if the timing doesn't work out, you might see a deficit there based on how it works out.
That's right. That's right.
That makes sense.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Lee? No? All right. Lee, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next year.
All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Any questions for me?
Nope, good job, Jill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. Next up, reports and updates. Managers report. Christina.
So I usually don't have anything, but I have a lot today because I've been pushing it off. Couple of things. Preserve stop sign, just so y'all are aware, the Preserve HOA has submitted a request to install a stop sign and to remove a yield sign. They've got some kind of wonky traffic issues over there. We are conducting engineered kind of study right now. Nothing crazy, just a little minor engineering portion that's part of our traffic mitigation policy that we approved a couple years ago. Davey's working on that. We'll have that back to you all at a later date, but it allows us to go out and research, make sure we find that it's suitable to make those changes, and then you all have to approve an ordinance to amend the traffic provisions. So it is a little bit of a process. We've communicated with the HOA about the process and that it's going to take a couple of weeks or months, but it's coming down the line. Just wanted to let y'all know. Second thing is the Marvin Creek Connector. We've been hearing about this trail for quite some time. Y'all have received several emails on this. I just wanted to reiterate to the community that the council has determined we are getting proposals for a wetland determination and report, a hydrostatic study, a topographic and boundary survey. We actually got one of the proposals in this week. We're still working on a couple of things before I present it to you all. It's around $35,000 for all of those things. We are getting a second quote as well, and we're also trying to come up with another solution for y'all to consider. We are putting this on the February 13th meeting, just so y'all know. I have issued a stop work order to the contractor. He's demobilized. There is no activity taking place on this connector trail currently. To the due diligence of us and making sure we're doing what we're supposed to be doing from a floodplain development management standpoint, I have also self-requested an audit from the Department of Public Safety, Division of Emergency Services, their National Flood Insurance Program Community Division Planner. Not sure when that'll take place, but we have taken the initiative to do that to make sure we are in compliance with everything that we are supposed to be doing. We feel very confident that we understand where we're at and where we're going with that process and other processes as well. Any questions on that?
No, but can I interrupt you really quick? I apologize. I need to make a note that at 10:56 a.m., Jamie Lyon joined us, so just want to make that for the record. Sorry. Go ahead, Christina.
One question I have is, as we're looking to continue to develop trails and greenways, oftentimes they are in 100-year floodplain. Are the specific issues with this one related around the fact that it is what are the particular issues with this one that is requiring this
Yes,
additional stuff?
Exactly what you said. And then also the potential for it to be in a wetlands area, protected habitat. So there's two kind of pillars of issues, the 100-year floodplain and floodway, and then the wetlands that we've got to research. So we're doing.
So are we expecting anytime we're in the floodplain, we're going to have to do these
Yes.
additional things?
Yes.
Or-
I thought it was only because we were crossing it with a bridge.
Yes, and if it's in the floodway as well, which is the 100,
You want me to?
good.
Yeah, so any type of cross of the floodway, which is the actual typical body of water, or typically where in normal or rain events when it gets out of the creek bed, like creek bank, it's identified. That's where we have to kind of go into a more detailed engineered study to, that's where that no-rise certificate and all that comes in. Any work in the actual floodplain is, it's all of this is still permitted through me. It just requires some type of either engineer certification for the bridge for the floodway and or plans for trails that encroach in the floodplain. It doesn't necessarily have to be fully studied, I guess, to an extent, but an engineer just has to sign off on it. So anything in the floodplain is a little bit less, I guess, when I say invasive, but then it'd be less of a burden on the village for engineered plans and costs. Anything crossing or encroaching in the floodway is where the money will kind of get up there.
Yeah, because from what I recall, oftentimes when we're talking about not crossing, but putting, greenways and paths in a floodplain, there are some differing requirements, whether it's a 50-foot buffer and what type of trail. If you're not doing kind of pavement, then it's different than, it's 50 versus 100 or 200 in some cases.
Yeah, so that's where in this, and this is what does get this really confusing, is that you have the FEMA and the floodplain regulations that also then double with the DEQ riparian buffer regulations for it's a 6-mile creek, but any tributary streams to that, which is pretty much any of the creeks or streams in Marvin, have that same requirement. That buffer is 100 feet on each side, if not in the floodplain, or it might be 50 on each side, I can't remember. But if it's in the floodplain, that's where that 200-foot buffer comes in. And that is where the, material width, all that stuff comes into play, and that we are, with this trail specifically, but really our trail standards in general, do comply with those. But yes, if we were technically adding like built upon area, doing it paved, it would trigger either additional approval or additional studies to submit to DEQ, not necessarily from the floodplain standpoint.
And I say that because I think we need to incorporate that understanding into when we're talking to developers about easements or common space, because they typically like to give us as much floodplain as available as they can. But if it's going to start driving up the costs for us to develop those potential, greenways and things like that, I think that's something PRG and we need to consider even more, is what those costs are down the lines. And maybe we're asking for fee in lieu instead, things like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I just wanted to let you all know where we are with that. I mean, we have understood now in hindsight that we misinterpreted an ordinance, and we are taking the necessary steps to make sure we are doing the proper due diligence before construction starts back. You've had a slew of property owners, as I mentioned at the retreat, to request some easement situations to be returned from the Marvin Creek community. You all put that back on them to provide evidence, to ask for evidence to support the claims. Some residents feel like it is our job to substantiate their claims to us, and I've communicated the desires that you all want to make sure you're addressing this issue with all the facts and that you're fully considering what their concerns are and looking at the evidence that substantiates said claims. So just letting you know where that is. I have sent the emails to all of the residents that sent emails to us. I have offered the opportunity to have a special meeting with the HOA and those interested citizens if they are interested, with the HOA being there, so they are the representative voice along with their residents. I have received a couple of emails back from one property owner that gave a couple of points of substantiation, but to this date I haven't received anything back. When I get them, I will forward them to you all. You can consider that at the February 13th meeting if you desire, when I request the appropriation for the engineering studies for us to start that process, or y'all can further direct staff what you want to do on that.
Christina, I appreciate you sending out the email that was essentially from council as a united message back to those homeowners. So this was, what Christina sent out was not her response, that was council's response. And unfortunately, yes, it was cut and pasted to everyone that it was sent to, because it needs to be a concise, direct message that is being communicated, that is being consistent. So, we apologize that you got a cut and pasted email, but it needs to be a consistent message, and that came from council. That did not come from Christina. Christina was just the messenger. So thanks for taking care of that.
Any questions on any of that? I'll let you know when our audit is scheduled. I have made that request to the Emergency Services National Floodplain Insurance Program Community Development Planner, who is also a certified floodplain development administrator. And he actually does a lot of the classes and teaching. He is actually the one that will do the audit of all communities within the western region. That's what we're classified in within that jurisdiction. They are the group that is they are the group that is appropriated from FEMA to administer these programs and these ordinances that we have in place. So that's the right entity to go to. They will be conducting that audit for us. And again, that was a self-requested audit because we really feel like we are in compliance and doing what we're supposed to be doing from a floodplain development standpoint as of now, that we understand we misinterpreted that ordinance. Upon no further questions on that, I'll move on to a couple more items if y'all are okay with that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Marsh and the tree budget. I sent an email to you all about this, but just so you know, we decided to actually take away the remaining balance of Marsh's balance of around $1,300. I don't remember the exact dollar amount because that's what the cost of the trees along that a different trail was going to cost. We have since procured those trees for much lower cost, so we've got a little bit of money to play with. My intent is to give that back to Marsh and expend it just because we didn't need it for the trees, unless anyone objects to that. Are there any objections to us giving that back? Okay.
No.
Number 4, Bonds Grove, Waxhaw Marvin Law Enforcement. I have received information. This is one of the interim solutions that you all had asked me to get back with Union County to ask for law enforcement coverage for off-duty. I've also contacted DOT for an interim solution. Hasn't gone anywhere. Union County said they're not interested in participating in any type of subsidy or coverage for law enforcement. Still waiting to hear back from Waxhaw, which they should be talking about that today or tomorrow at their retreat. Although I do not count on that for jurisdictional reasons. So just wanted to let you know we're kind of back to the drawing board. If y'all want to talk about this at another meeting so it's actually published in the agenda packets, I'll be more than glad to do so, but we've gone nowhere with interim solutions on Waxhaw Marvin Bonds Grove.
So Christina, to be clear, Waxhaw doesn't own any corner of that?
They do not.
Okay, that said, jurisdiction-wise, you're saying they don't have the right to go out there and direct traffic, or the jurisdiction means that they can't necessarily pull someone over and say, I'm going to issue you a ticket? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I can't answer the question legally because I'm obviously not an attorney and I don't know, but jurisdictionally, what my professional opinion is they could do the off-duty traffic control. However, in the event of a traffic infraction, they have no authority to enforce said infraction, and therefore kind of nullifies the overall intent of them being there. They're kind of toothless, so to say.
Well, I understand that, but when I come upon an intersection, this is just me, and I see flashing lights of an officer and stuff, I'm paying attention and I'm looking for the officer who's directing traffic. I'm not thinking about, I'm just gonna disregard what he says and just go do what I wanna do and just go blow right through that. Yes, they don't have any teeth, but you know, I mean, what's the difference in us hiring or going with Waxhaw and combining and saying, okay, let's consider this a construction zone and let's put construction workers there to direct traffic. They don't have any jurisdiction, but they do create a process where you can get the flow of traffic going. So my point is, I'm not really concerned that they can't pull someone over and issue them a citation for doing something wrong. I'm trying to get flow of traffic addressed during critical periods. And, you know, here we have an opportunity to share this, whether with Waxhaw. Can't believe that Union County doesn't want to participate with it, but that's not, I guess, surprising. And then the state, I mean, we covered this in the past, but that's where I would lead to, is maybe a construction company that's saying, look, Waxhaw, these are mostly your people, in fairness, coming through, or Mineral Springs, do you want to share in this too? And we put, we label that, since it is a future roundabout has been designated, that you put some construction cones up there and they go out there and direct traffic. Just a thought.
So a couple of responses to that. If you recall, probably 4 years ago, we had the same analogy that we did at the Newtown roundabout when we found out it was going to be extended another year or two. I did a pretty extensive analysis during that time with a couple of different traffic control companies, and it ended up being greater cost than just doing the law enforcement. So y'all subsequently decided to do law enforcement. So I think that we can go back to the drawing board, but I don't think anything's going to change from a standpoint of the construction side of things. Now, from the Waxhaw police coverage, I get what you're saying, but on the flip side, if I was the police chief and those were my employees and I knew that they were standing out on the side of a busy road with people that may or may not be like you and, you know, could very likely have traffic provision or traffic issues, I would want my folks to feel safe and know that someone who maybe violated something or made an unsafe movement, they could actually enforce something upon that person at that point in time.
So,
That's my opinion.
Well, and speaking of jurisdiction, so if say Waxhaw was in agreements with doing this, Union County and the state have jurisdiction on these roads. They enforce the traffic laws. So they would have to also give their blessing for another agency to be out there directing traffic on their roads. Am I correct?
I would imagine so, but I can't tell you that for sure.
So my point is, I think that it would be prudent that if we are going to ask Waxhaw to do this, we should probably know the answer to that question for sure. And if they are, you know, are they okay with it? Are they going to give us their blessing for that particular thing?
Or give us temporary jurisdiction. Waxhaw gets temporary jurisdiction in that area while this thing happens.
I love that we have these ideas, but we just need to wait for Waxhaw to get back to us. If Waxhaw tells us to, you know, buzz off, then, I mean, that's our answer. So until Waxhaw gets back to us, then we can figure it out. But until then, I mean, you know, I don't have any answers.
Just so Union County may not be willing to provide any more sheriffs to do this in their off hours, but we contract specifically with our own sheriff's deputies. What is our ability to direct them to do something like this?
We are not allowed to direct our sheriff deputies to
Okay.
do anything. That comes straight from the sheriff.
So I'll just add this to the next meeting, or the work session. We can talk about it again, have it published on the agenda. I'll have an answer back from Waxhaw by that point in time, and we can go from there. Number 5. RFQ for Village Hall. Just so y'all are aware, we have completed the RFQ for engineering and architectural services for the Village Hall Park process. I'm hoping to get that out in February and have a due date back in March, the beginning of March, so it gives them basically a month to get the qualifications in. I did want to make sure you all understood that we are asking a lot from this group that we will be hiring, because we're, based on the retreat, we're basically asking them for 2 sets of construction documents, one for Phase 1 that is the, what's in the Part F application, the event lawn, the walking loop, site amenities, and the rain garden. We're asking for a conversion of 100% plans on the rain garden, dry pond, whatever we're calling it, from 30% to 100% with the inclusion of an underground storage water bladder with an irrigation pump to irrigate that site. We're also asking for the construction and design documents of the amphitheater itself, which would be Phase 2. I don't know for sure. This is one little problem and hiccup that I'm trying to overcome, but typically when there's structures involved, you hire an architectural firm to do that, not necessarily an engineer. So they may have to sub that part of it out, which could be a little bit costly. So I'm just letting you know, I'm not really sure how that's going to work, but we're working through that process. The RFQ is actually in queue for review with Chaplin. He will hopefully have that done this week. It is in the queue. We will hopefully have that in March. He will make a decision based on qualifications. We will not have pricing when this comes back. It's all done on qualifications. I have asked in the RFQ for an hourly rate, which we could kind of guesstimate out. We will, once the qualification is decided and y'all make that decision, in turn, we will negotiate that rate and that contract and have a proposal. So we probably won't have anything from a design standpoint until summerish, and then hopefully around fall into winter, we would be able to bid that construction documents in that time frame, and hopefully all of next year would be spent doing the actual construction. Any questions on any of that? If anyone is interested in looking at the RFQ to make sure it covers anything and everything that you all are interested, let me know and I can get it to you. And then number 6, I did get an email and call yesterday from the League of Municipalities. If you remember, about 2 months ago, we came to you all with a couple of different variations of grant projects that they were offering under ARPA funding. One of those being something that we were really excited about from a staff standpoint. I haven't even told staff this, so they don't even know yet. They have removed the engineering planning section of that ARPA project out of the scope. They've reallocated those funds, so that's not going to be an option for us anymore. We had decided to do some kind of infrastructure conceptual planning for the Heritage District with that project. So that's off the table. We are no longer in the queue to do that process. So that's something that council wants to do in next year. We just need some direction from you all from a standpoint of master planning to put into the budget. Don't have to decide that today. We can do it as a part of the budget process, but I did want to let you know that that is off the table now. Any questions? And then the last thing, we'll end it on a positive note. Mayor Pro Tem had an idea that we wanted to mention at Marvin Eford Park for the installation of bee boxes. So I wanted to let y'all kind of hash that out real quick and see if y'all were okay with it. We can.
Bee boxes, wouldn't that be cool? We can make our own honey. We can sell it. We can put the Marvin Village logo on it. Wouldn't that be amazing? They have it like in the Ballantine, like they've got like a little fenced off area, and I saw it the other day, and it was like, I don't know what it said, but it was really cute, and I was just like, that'd be really cute to put it.
I actually am a beekeeper.
John, I got a beekeeper. John will do it.
Let me tell you, this is the 3rd year we're doing it. It's not as easy as you think, and it does need quite a bit of interaction.
I just feel like we probably have somebody like in the community that, like, if we put it out there, that would love to do something like that.
And we very well may.
John doesn't want to do it.
I actually have, I'm part of some groups within Union and County and stuff, and they do look for areas to do that. Typically, though, if they do it and maintain it and everything, it is their honey.
We might get a jar or two, maybe.
But no, certainly something that could be done. The only thing that I would say, though, too, is it you know, there are people that are allergic to bees, and putting them in a public place like that, where you have kids running around, may or may not know it, you know, there's some potential risks with things like that as well, so.
Bees fly around like in nature too.
Yeah,
I mean-
understood, but they would be
No, but
wrong.
I mean, like, the one that I saw in Valentine, like, they had like a big fence around it, so it wasn't like
Correct.
people could go up to the bee boxes and like mess around with them or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just thought it was a, you know, fun idea, if anybody would, like, we might be interested in looking into it. Maybe Park Check and Greenway wants to look into it.
Yeah, I can bring it up at our next meeting there.
Certainly a good opportunity for pollinators for the vegetation at the park. It would kind of concentrate more
Yep.
of that, so could be a good idea as long as it's executed correctly.
Yeah, and the concern, I say, is you would almost have to put a fence around it or
I mean,
something
yeah,
like that,
I
because
would-
people could happen onto it without
I
really
would think
knowing.
so.
Once you get, you know, 15, 20 feet away, then it's generally not an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought it was cute. I drove by and I was like, oh, that's really cute there. So, I don't know.
And then
it's
the
just an
last
idea.
thing I'll just mention, so we'll just wait for y'all to bring it, to someone to bring it back up.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll mention is we have aggressively been working on our budget schedule and calendar. We're scheduling meetings with staff over the next couple of weeks. Departments have all of their instructions for year-end estimates, so we'll know, you know, approximately what we anticipate on putting back into fund balance. If we want to try to fund a couple of projects at the end of the year, or that would substantiate a fund balance appropriation in next year, we'll be doing those over the next probably 2 or 3 weeks. And we're already starting to work on budget input and all of that stuff. So we'll be real busy over the next several months working on budget. You'll have your budget sessions already scheduled. And that's pretty much it. It's the longest manager report I've had.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Christina. All right, next up, Clerk and Communications Report. Austin.
The only thing is just the monthly communications. You've got the list in your packets. Pretty standard stuff. I didn't elaborate much on the list for the bond stuff. You've already started to see some of the bond posts go out. Those graphics were made by Granite Sky as part of our marketing contract. We're advertising the GeoBond Town Hall, the playground. I need to get with Davey to see what's the timeline on that, because I would expect that we're probably getting close. So we'll need to start publicizing the reopening for when the new playground's installed. Marvin Day, the Easter egg hunt are coming up in the next couple months, and then it's all the usual things: closures, holidays, meetings, coffee with council, and the like.
Anything else?
Do you guys have anything you want me to add to this list?
Nope.
That's all that I have then.
All right. Planners report, yes and no. Oh, I used that last night too, by the way. I answered a question, yes and no. I was like, oh, that hurt too.
How did they respond to that?
Not as negatively as I usually do.
It's catching on.
Yeah.
Just a few things to update you guys on. So the first one is the Greenway Trail Planning and Oversight. I guess some members of the public, as well as some council members, had some questions on, you know, what all from a planning department, like, do we do in reviewing greenways? In short, you know, and especially with a lot of the projects that we've had in the recent years, have been based off of easements that have been dedicated to us in the, you know, on the subdivision plat. So that's where a lot of initial, at least from my role, comes in from a planning standpoint, is looking at, you know, where the easement's being dedicated and how it kind of lines up, as well as looking at the Greenway Master Plan and all that other stuff to see if we have any proposed projects in that area. And that's also kind of leveraged to make sure they kind of put those in those subdivisions plans. Overall, from, you know, then moving forward into the project phase, we've been working on internally kind of a process, and kind of, you know, with the change in staff and kind of those duties and responsibilities, and with everything that's happened, we definitely have now kind of got a good idea of how to initiate these processes. In short, like, when some projects are identified and stuff, it's going to basically start with me checking, when do we have an easement to, if there's any floodplain considerations that need to, you know, be discussed or looked into further, depending on if it's in the floodplain or potentially crossing a floodway. And after that, then we'll do the due diligence of moving forward, either getting additional plans done or, you know, bringing it to you guys if we have to, you know, spend additional funds for those plans on that project. And then after that, it's kind of, if we move forward with it and it's all permitted, then Tyler and David will be taking over from there. But in short, it doesn't really go to outside of PR&G for maybe recommendation and kind of some guidance. It doesn't really go to any specific boards. And I know that was one of the questions, comments that kind of came up.
Yeah, and I'll just interject real quick, because we had a resident to submit a request, and it's been a couple days since I've read it, so I'm just going to read it real quick. Is there a consideration for future greenway easement procurement, future engineering design plans, and construction to be permanently moved away from PRG board and to the oversight of the planning board? In addition, does the village include future greenway planning? Will and does the Marvin Development Ordinance include future planning instructions? Okay, that one's not answered. I mean, that one's not for this. Perhaps greenways are built out.
While you're looking at that, when do we think that we're going to get those quotes back for all the studies?
I've got one back. It was right around $32,000 for the wetlands determination, the topographic survey, the flooding modeling, and then some coordination with state agencies if needed. So that's about $32,000. We had some correspondence this morning to discuss another option, which is to build a bridge that kind of spans the whole area. And we're kind of going back and forth with those numbers. They just threw a number at us today, and it was just a guesstimate from a previous project that was around $300,000 for a similar bridge. And then we have another quote from our existing engineer that was around the same of $40,000-ish.
Okay, I'd say let's gather all that stuff up. I'm not sure that the regular February meeting is going to be the time to talk about it, so let's just put that on the February work session.
Okay.
And to add to one thing, and I talked about this with our engineer 2 weeks ago about this, is that during this planning process, you know, from a subdivision standpoint, you know, most of the time, sometimes the developer will build the trail. Sometimes they will just dedicate the easement and maybe a portion of fee in lieu. But I'm going to see if I can work in, if they're not building the trail, that part of their plans have the engineered drawings for this. So then that kind of does take some of the cost burden off of the village, where then it's still certified by an engineer. It would then be, we would review it, it's reviewed by our engineer. And then if we decide to then do that project at a later date, we can fall back on those plans and just follow according to those plans. And then if we have to make any revisions to those, then that, you know, that'll be on the village to do so. But that's kind of one thing that I'm going to try implementing moving forward with any future developments.
Yeah, because I could imagine that the cost for them to incorporate it into the greater design is a lot different from the cost of us as kind of a one-off basis engaging in an engineer to do something like that.
I had a question as I'm reading this. Does the Parks, Recreation, and Greenway Board currently, or have they ever been involved with easement procurement, engineer design plans, and construction? Have they ever construction oversight? Have they ever been involved in any of that?
Outside of, like I said, that initial sketch plan phase from a subdivision standpoint coming
Just
to them.
conceptual kind of.
Conceptual, but you know, like I said, after the fact, and specifically with this trail that that has brought all this to attention, we didn't have an easement, and that's what kind of drove some of this. Like a lot of the trails that we've worked on in the past, we've already had the easement, and it's already, there hasn't been any type of other steps that really have had to be taken. And so that procurement, like I said, my understanding is that it was mentioned to PR&G and about that the HOA was willing to work with the village and potentially dedicate an easement to us. And they directed staff to follow up on it and, move forward trying to obtain that easement. But other than that, I don't think any other
No, we've never gotten into that. When I was on PRG, we always had to kind of rely on staff because we don't have the familiarity with the ordinances and things like that to that degree.
So, and I'm going to put you on the spot, Hunter, and you may not know the answer off the top of your head, but do you know if there's anything in our current ordinance that designates the Greenways Parks Recreation Board or the Planning Board for easement procurement, future engineering, design plans, and construction oversight.
No, like I said, outside of like the initial subdivision review process for sketch plan, preliminary plat, and construction documents, they're not, it never has to go to that. And same thing like for then the floodplain development part of it, that's all administrative with the required documents.
So that being said, does council have any desires to do anything different with Greenways than what we have done in the past? Do y'all have any extra provisions that y'all want us to consider?
I don't. I mean, unless we've got somebody on a board who's an expert in that, I think they're going to be in the same position that we're in.
Yeah.
I think that's on, that's on staff. I don't think.
And it's, in the years that I've been on it, it's just, I think that what they're doing is really what they should be doing, is just, if there's a sketch plan to review it, subdivisions and such, that with those plans, review it. The only time I ever remember anything on my years in PRG is that we have discussed maybe rerouting some of the things within subdivisions that were presented to us on a plan before it was set in stone, and then there was no implications on engineering or anything at that point. It was purely conceptual that we gave some remarks on, but past that, it should be staff, because staff is the expert on the ordinances and the processes.
So,
I don't see a problem having an extra set of eyes on this, so I agree with you, Kim. It's, we don't need to really change up anything here. They don't have authority to make decisions. They're just, ideas are free, and this is all part of the process in government where you have many committees, it's decided by a panel, whatever. So I'd keep it the same.
As the liaison, my intent would be at our next meeting, I want to bring them up to speed on kind of what went on here, just so they have an understanding conceptually as we move forward. These are things that staff, council, and they will need to consider when they look at projects. And probably, we'll have that as an agenda item, and Hunter will be able to explain in more detail kind of where things went awry here. And just how we continue to plan for it in the future.
So I asked Hunter to put this here because I thought it was a good place and a good time, and I'm just going to summarize this, and you can correct me or interject if you need to, Hunter. But I know the resident asked this question with good intent, and I think it's a result of what's transpired with the Marvin Creek connector, and we have admitted that we misinterpreted an ordinance that was on staff. We admit that wholeheartedly. So a lot of the times when we do these projects, any project for that matter, it is a lot of the engineering, construction oversight of village staff. We have learned that we missed the ordinance process, and we will change and correct that moving forward. So I don't think that anything would change any differently than what we had done in this process, other than the fact that we now understand an ordinance a lot differently than what we did 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, whenever it was that it was brought to our attention.
Well, and I think it's really important, too, to bring out the fact that this was kind of a unique situation. And in speaking with Hunter, the easement itself that we got from the Marvin Creek side wasn't really where this issue came up. So when he was looking at that, he was kind of looking at it myopically. But it's this other area on a separate parcel where, the issue kind of came into play. So, because the Marvin Creek side already has the existing trail there, so when we were looking at that, the focus wasn't really on,
And to add to that, and to the comments about easement procurement being under a certain board, it does take, I would say 9 out of 10 times when we do greenways or any type of project and we have an easement, it goes into that easement. There's going to be variations when we have topographic issues, flooding issues, various things that we didn't recognize when you're just looking at a 2D map here, or 1D. So we recognize that things are going to happen when you're in the field, and you're going to have to go back and make some amendments and some changes, and that's what happened with this one on several different faucets. And I think that we have always traditionally relied on staff to do what they thought was right based on what the experts in the field see, the rain, the washout, some topographic issues, some rocks, some unsuitables. Unless council or other board members want to start walking those routes when the contractors are here, it is really difficult to rely on a board or other persons to make those changes on easements. Again, I get the intent and I get where we're going, but I think that our natural process of construction oversight, engineering, planning for any project goes at a staff level unless y'all want to get into the weeds on that kind of modifications.
I don't think we need to get into the weeds on it. And I did want to say that Christina Ward, you said, this was on staff. It really wasn't. It's on this board, it's on this council, because we are the ones that made the decision to move forward with it. So I appreciate you saying that, but at the end of the day, it's our responsibility, and we made a mistake, and we've said it multiple times, and I'll say it again, we've made a mistake, we're fixing it, and we'll make sure that we don't make the same mistake again. So I appreciate people's patience as we're trying to fix this, but at the end of the day, it's on us.
So any other questions on that, the planning part? Okay. Tullamore Phase 4, still finally kind of having some communication with the Townsend Audrey property manager. Still haven't gotten a quote-unquote set meeting or phone call arranged, but at least she's getting emails back to me. So the plan is to potentially stay on top of that and, see if we can procure that easement. Like I said, that already has been reviewed, looked into further, as in it's not in any floodplain or anything. It's just connecting two different trails, going back through a portion of the common open space on the Town of Audrey property. So staff's, still working on that, and potentially, hopefully, we'll have, a more detailed update for you guys during your February regular meeting on that. Final thing is the Marvin Development Ordinance update. We've set up the small group meetings, had my first yesterday with Jamie. The plan of these is to really get you guys kind of familiarized and up to speed on this project. So when we hit that March, April timeline, when it's kind of actually being brought to you guys for, call for public hearing and adoption, you guys are more familiar with it, and it's not the first time seeing it. So I do anticipate probably having, after this first round, at least one, if not two more, small group sessions. This first one's just intended to kind of get you guys familiar with it, certain sections, where certain things are at. The second one will kind of go into detail on some of the big changes and certain things that I know that council's probably going to have questions on. And the third one will then kind of be a wrap up of, any potential things that come out of the second meeting, or, feedback and stuff, and then how we get it addressed in the update. So any questions on that? Then that's all I got.
Anybody have questions for Hunter? Okay, all right, thank you, Hunter. Next up, event planning. Tyler, come on down. Oh, I'm sorry, Jill has a question.
Well, it's just that lunch is here and it's ready, so I don't know if you all want to take a short break or if you're almost done. I don't know what you want to do.
No, we're gonna keep powering through. We're gonna get to closed session, and then we'll take lunch into closed session. Thank you. Tyler, come on down, buddy.
Hello.
Hello.
Coming up, Easter egg hunt, March 23rd, that Saturday.
Do you need us there? Do you want us there? What's happening with us?
It's probably going to be like a nice time to have y'all out there. It's going to be a nice kind of day. It's going to begin at 10 in the morning. We'll do 3 separate egg hunts in age groups. So each time slot will be 0 to 3-year-olds will be from 10 to 11:15.
23rd?
The 23rd, Saturday.
Do I get to look for Easter eggs?
You can look at them.
Okay, no, I mean. That's a good answer,
Nice
Tyler.
answer.
You could. That could be fun. But yeah, that's coming up. Marvin Day, still the 27th. We're creeping up a little bit on your sponsorship. You can see the summary. We're up to 22,000 this morning. Got another 1,000. So we're at 23 in total right now.
Where did we get this morning?
Dewberry. We got a couple. I know Hunter's got some heavy hitters, maybe potentially.
I'll add that I did send an email to the property manager for Publix yesterday to please, share my email and the information on Marvin Day sponsorship with all their tenants. We did go out there back in like November and hand out brochures, but it's kind of another way to hopefully see if there's some interest from any local businesses out in Marvin Gardens. And I told Tyler this yesterday, I'm going to reach out to the pool companies that do a lot of the projects here. I know like Anthony and Sylvan's up in Blakeney. I think Edgewater's literally like right over the state line. I don't have any direct contacts for those organizations. I just have like the people who do the permits for them, but I'm still going to reach out and just see, hey, wait for them to market and try to maybe get more pools here in Marvin. And then we're still waiting on to hear back from Beechwood Homes in Lenane, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
We got Zepsa.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I also believe AMT is going to sponsor too.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I said we got one this morning. And then, so my main ask is we just stay on top of them. I've reached out to every single person we have, call, email, all this. If you guys have anybody that's committed and pledged money, if y'all could just get me the contact information, like on this list, you can see where it's like pledged and received. If any of y'all have any like outstanding people, if y'all just give me the contact, I will be all over them.
Are you working this list or is it Mary? Like who's updating this list?
I am, Jill's doing this. This is the summary part of the actual spreadsheet. This is like the last page. I have to email you the updated tracker, like the actual one, the one you usually get.
Okay.
That's like the spread out sheet.
Okay.
This is just a kind of a summary to give you guys.
I'll get with you after because some of this stuff's not right on here and I've got updates on other people, so I'll
Okay.
let you know.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
And, yeah, that's pretty much.
Big push, so what's our deadline?
So it was February 1st, but we really could run until like February 15th.
When
is
are
when
we ordering shirts?
The 15th is when we
Banners.
need logos by from everybody.
The 15th?
Yeah, so the 1st was kind of like a pressurized date.
Got it.
But yeah, sooner the better, for sure.
So, real quick, on my sponsorship, can we get my company name on there? Because that's really who's sponsoring, not me personally.
Perfect, yes.
Okay. For sure. You've got that information from last year, right? Okay. Okay. Okay, all right.
All right.
Anything else, Tyler?
Nope, don't believe so. Thank
All
y'all.
right. Thanks for coming down. Coffee with Council. It wasn't Andy, it was Jamie.
We had one visitor, which is
Dog, more than we normally do.
100% better than we normally do. I met with Deborah Berry. I think, John, you had a communication with her some time ago, back in 2020. She copied me on an email that she sent to you.
Okay,
But anyway,
Yeah, I'm the HOA president there, so, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, she just came in and she said that, that she and many of the residents up and down that area that she's talked to, they're not opposed to it, but strongly opposed to doing a kind of path, trail, through there
along
because-
Waxhaw Marvin, yes.
Right, because of the horses and the safety reasons. They've had several wrecks where her property taking out her fence, and she said that Ed has gone down there and looked at it and said, he would strongly recommend not putting a trail system through there because of the traffic and the speeds and stuff like that and line of sight. And so anyway, but we had a nice conversation. She said she did not want to get into the geo bond stuff, but boy, it's not hard to slip right into that slope. And but we had a great conversation about it, and to a point where I think once we started getting into the details of the geo bond, that her mind may have changed.
Yeah, and I will say that in my role with, the Providence Estates Properties Owners Association. It's not just Deb, but there's a couple of folks, you know, the white fence that goes around here. I'm very familiar with the one that owns that. And he gets probably 3 to 4 wrecks a year through that fence, kind of similar to what used to happen down on Marvin Road there too. I've also spoken to folks on the Valhalla side because they've had a number of wrecks. Just that whole thing is kind of a turn as you're approaching Bonds Grove Church Road. And, you know, that is something that as we talk about the priorities that we'll have, even, you know, if we were to have the GO bond pass, you know, there's still, you know, whether or not that particular section of the road makes sense. I don't know that the residents, you know, in that area feel they would benefit a lot from it. And it's one of the higher cost things that we have because you're not serving a whole lot of people in that area, you know, so the cost per resident that could utilize it might not be much. I think folks in that area would prefer more some of the natural trails and connectors through the woods than necessarily something along that section of Waxhaw Marvin Road, just because it has been such a nightmare from a safety perspective.
Well, I can tell you that I can envision that there will be a benefit to the safety of that roadway once the traffic circle goes in, depending on how they design it and how much they can slow it down. Because at this point, late at night when there's no traffic, and typically when these bad accidents happen down there, it's when there's low traffic volume. That turn there, you know, well, it's not much of a
That
turn.
curve,
The curve.
that whole curve
Well, but
around
the,
there.
the intersection at Bonds Grove and Waxhaw Marvin could be taken at pretty high rates of speed when there's not traffic out there, which encourages a bad result in that subsequent curve there. So with the traffic circle being installed, it will slow people down in that, and it'll help to some extent, I feel like. I'm not, certainly not an expert, but what my feeling is that, you know, anywhere we can slow the travel down, it will help in those situations, and I hope it really does. The other thing is, of course, with the GO bond, if we can take over those roads and reduce the speed limit, that will certainly help those kinds of situations as well. So there's a number of things that could improve along that corridor for sure.
All right, anything else from her?
No, it was good.
Okay.
We had a good conversation.
Good. All right. Anything else for that, Jamie? Okay. Open topics. Anybody got anything? I do, but I'll ask everybody else first.
Nothing from Joe?
We can't hear you, buddy. You're muted. Perfect. Austin, good job auto-muting him.
No. Hold on. I just want to make sure there's coverage for WUMA this afternoon.
Andy
Yes,
will be there.
I will
Or
be there.
here. Be here.
I'm
All right,
still
well,
be
please
here.
apologize that I can't be there, but family duties call, so happy to be. It's my mom's 88th birthday this Saturday, so.
Very nice. All right, we got it covered, Joe.
Anything else?
Thank
from
you.
Mr. Mayor?
No, that's it.
John? Anything? Andy? Nope. Jamie? Nope. Wayne? Nope. Okay. All right, GeoBond meeting times. I need to update this again. Sorry, guys. Everybody get out your handy dandy little calendars and your handy dandy little calendars. I would really like to be at the Marvin Creek meeting, so I'm going to pull Bob off of that since he's not here. So I'm going to do that with Jamie.
I'd like to also be at that meeting if that works.
Okay, so we'll pull Wayne off of that since he's not here. We have gotten a request from Providence Glen that they would like a meeting either, they would like it on 2/8, which is February the 8th. That's a Thursday. I'm happy to do it that date. I have availability. Does anybody else have availability?
I'll do it with you.
Okay, Jamie?
I can do it too.
Okay, perfect. I will let them know. So the 8th will be Kim, Jamie, and Joe, and that will be at Village Hall at 6:30. If you can, send out a calendar invite, either Christine or Austin. Okay, and that's it. And then last night we had Bridal Path in Wyndham Hall. We had a couple of Firethorn people show up as well. It went really well. We had some good questions. Tonight, we've got Amber Meadows, Tullamore, and Canterfield Creek. It's myself, Wayne, and Jamie. So we will tell Bob and Wayne that they don't need to come on Monday, the 29th. Okay, and that's all I had. All right, very good. Thank you very much. Next up, review of action items. Austin?
All right. So we're going to table the roads item, the fitness courts, the pickleball courts, all to March 28th. I have my marching orders on the GO bond signs. Davey is going to move forward with the quote from Spectrum. Sorry, reading my messages here. I'm going to start sending minutes out to HOA presidents following this meeting for the next 3 months, and we'll reevaluate at the May meeting. Davey is going to put up camera signs at Marvin Eford Park to tell people they're being monitored. I'm going to get in touch with the Weddington Chase HOA president to learn how he gets people to attend events.
I actually just responded to an email that he sent me and asked him that question, so you don't need to.
I like it.
Just one thing on that. That's really one of the first ones we actually did at their clubhouse too, correct?
Yes.
So I wonder if that might be something, that is also kind of an incentive as well,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the places we're meeting with, they don't have, either they have something and it's too small, or they just don't have anything. So unfortunately, Firethorn didn't have availability, and we're going to Marvin Creek, we're going to Courtyards. Providence Glen doesn't have a place, Canterfield, Amber Meadows, Tullamore.
Canterfield Creek's coming foot.
Yeah, but they don't have a big enough, or they don't have a clubhouse, so, yeah, that could be it. But I did ask him, because he asked a question, and I'm trying to answer it and ask him a question, so you don't have to do that.
Okay, we're going to move forward with ADA parking at Marvin Eford Park, not removing any trees. Davey's going to move forward with the additional lighting along the pathway between the top lot and the sidewalks near the playground, as well as with additional lighting from the barn to the lower parking lots. Christina is going to return the differential in the marsh appropriation for the trees. Christina's gonna move forward with the floodplain audit and let us know when that is taking place. She's going to bring the Waxhaw Marvin Bonds Grove interim solutions back to the next work session. We're gonna add B boxes to the next PRG agenda and studies. Christina's going to have studies at the next work session. I don't remember which studies that was.
The engineer studies for the Marvin Creek connector.
Yep. That's all I've got.
Sorry, Christina, you don't have anything else? Nope, okay. All right. Review of Mayor Pro Tem list. All right, you're working on the parkland. Joe's working on the annexation reform. You don't think that the person you're talking to is the appropriate person?
Yeah, that's correct. I think he may have just done it to
appease you.
Well, no, I mean, when he did it years ago, I mean, it was just kind of a way, and then I learned that you can target this in certain areas of the North Carolina, is my understanding. So that may be an option for us, given that, but I'd also like it if you can bring it up, Andy, at WUMA and see what the interest level is with that, because I think it's important. And again, I didn't realize when at election night that because he had glasses on, he was with the band of three, but Brian Helms was there, and I floated that idea to the Waxhaw people, and he just flat out said, I don't like that idea at all. And again, it's because he didn't understand it. Again, it's not your home anymore. What do you care that resident that becomes a Marvin resident or a Waxhaw resident? And that's the way we're going to get this accomplished, I think.
Austin, I would like somebody to look into where we are with the state legislation ending the moratorium on forced annexations. I've heard from more than one person that Waxhaw has a plan to start, as soon as it's over, to start forcibly annexing anything that is adjacent to them. I don't know what that means. I don't know what is going on, but I've heard it from more than one person. So
I think that this is some misinformation. The moratorium that we're under right now is specific to us and a number of municipalities from around 2011. To my knowledge, Waxhaw was not included in that. We were included because we did push for a very large annexation at the time, and that's how the state legislature retaliated when they reversed the annexation.
It's a local bill on Marvin.
It is.
And that is over when?
My understanding is it should be expiring at the close of the 2024 fiscal year, so June 30th, 2024. At that point, in theory, we would obviously want to consult with Chaplin, and I'll definitely get legal advice, that we would be free to start that process if we wanted to, but it's an elongated process that would take more than a year to even get something to the ballot.
Okay, well, let's start looking into that, because one, I'm hearing that Waxhaw is ready to do a land grab. That was not my word, somebody else said it. And two, people keep talking to us about, why aren't you annexing more of these neighborhoods in? Why aren't you getting the unincorporated Union County? Because it would help the tax base. We've tried, and we would like to, and if you have suggestions and would like to help us and be part of that, maybe we could get a working group together to do that. But let's find out what we need to do if this moratorium is lifted on Marvin, and what we can do to start trying to get more neighborhoods in. Like, what's the actual process? You can just, thank you. Okay.
And I could offer to kind of help with that, but
That'd be great,
it'll
since
be,
you've done it.
there have been a lot of changes to annexation law over the years since. So, there, with the concerns about Waxhaw, one of the things used to be, it would have to be contiguous to your borders, or you could do a satellite. Now, Waxhaw already has a little satellite, which is Barrington,
They're connected now.
Oh, they're connected now. But essentially, we do have contiguous borders from down Waxhaw Marvin Road all the way to. So, I don't know what the feasibility with the new rules that I'll have to familiarize myself with, because we haven't been involved in it in such a long time.
Okay.
But, there's so many different tests and requirements that you have to pass, and they're different from a village of Marvin that has a population maybe of less than 10,000 versus somebody like Waxhaw that might have 20,000. There's different rules that applies to different size municipalities.
One good thing to note, though, is municipalities can't hopscotch each other for annexation. So Marvin is essentially a wall, so Waxhaw can't jump Marvin parcels to start annexing on the other side of us.
All right, well, that is one thing that I'm slightly concerned about. So
That
let's
was
just find out what we can.
One of John's big advantages when he was doing the annexation was he essentially blocked Waxhaw from pushing into the Marvin area, which
Thank you, John.
which unfortunately created some of our donut holes. But
Well, I mean, we got to take the good with the bad. So let's just figure out what we need to be doing at the end of the day. Let's just figure that out. Just going through here. Do we have the radar signs installed yet? No, we're still working on the easements. Okay. We're working on the internet, working on the dry pond. Execute Part F. Did you execute that agreement?
Yes.
Okay, Austin, you can check that off. You Tullamore Phase 3 screening is still not done.
It's done.
It's done? Okay.
It will be done today, Tuesday.
Okay, go ahead and mark it off then. You can do, staff will move forward with the tree purchase for the buffer. You can mark that off too. Okay, that's it for that. Council comments. Mr. Mayor, I'll let you go first since you're not here. Oh, it's fine.
Well,
It's
I
fine.
appreciate that, and I also had a hard stop at noon, so I was looking at the time here, so very timely, so thank you. First off, I'd like to say, sorry I couldn't attend, but I appreciate that. that I was able to be a part of this meeting. Thanks, staff, as always. You guys are doing just a terrific job. I'd like to reflect again on the retreat. Thanking North State again for hosting us. Again, I think it's just a fantastic environment, and I think I learned a lot was accomplished, and it's just a great time to get everyone away and out of the craziness. As far as our recent GEO bond presentation, that was at Weddington Chase. I would say I'd like to first off thank Andy and Wayne for attending, as well as Jill being a person we could turn to talk about numbers if those were discussed, so I appreciated her being there. But more importantly, the attendance was very good questions, and they were very respectful, and I very much understand where they're coming from. But their roads are done. It may be a little bit different if their roads weren't done. They have a lot of walking trails and stuff like that. So, and as I'm hearing these things with how these bonds could be used, I mean, I'm assuming if we get into spending a lot of money on paths and greenways on doing the studies before we can actually do them, then that number may, we may get closer to that number. We don't know that information. But that being said, being here, Zoom, I will say picture is crystal clear, and the sound was excellent. So we're doing a good job on the logistics of the remote participation. So easy to be a part of it. Thank you, guys. And I may sign off just because I'm looking at the time and I have to be somewhere at 1 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. We'll excuse the
Thanks.
mayor at 12:07. Oh, I make a motion to excuse the mayor at 12:07.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right.
Thanks,
Bye, Mayor.
guys. Have a good day.
All right, Wayne, you're up. Any council comments?
I just want to thank the staff, especially with the GEO bonds and everything, what they've supported us with. I really appreciate it. And the deputies, which are not here, but I appreciate them too.
All right, Jamie?
I was ditto to Joe's and Wayne's comments, and again, y'all do a great job of taking care of us through just your regular duties, but also with the GEO bond stuff. It really helps to having you there. And again, to Tommy and to Ed, y'all be safe. A lot of stuff going on, and so just be safe out there. Thanks.
Thank you, Jamie. Andy?
I'm good.
John?
I'm good as well.
All right, I'm good too. So with that being said, I need a motion to recess into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A56 to instruct the public body staff concerning the position to be taken by the public body in negotiating the price and other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property identified as parcels 062310001A, 062310001B, 062310001C, 0 Henry Nesbitt Road, owned by C.H. Nesbitt, LLC, by purchase, option, exchange, or lease, and to discuss personnel.
So moved.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes, and we are in closed session.
Let me know what happens.
No, we won't.